comments than I've ever had as board president. So if anything goes haywire and I don't call your name, please raise your hand and wave at me or something so that I know that you're there and that I didn't call you.
You want to call me to order?
What's that?
You want to call it to order? Or
Yeah.
late?
Oh, just a...
Is everybody going?
Okay. I don't even know what that is yet. I haven't had a chance to read it.
It's sunken boats.
You guys still want to keep 8 on the agenda, correct? Somebody. Is it still 9? I thought we changed the order of the agenda because we dropped off Alex's.
So you order? Yeah, it's fine. I got one too. Yeah.
You do it.
There's 2 of them.
Sure.
You want
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor Commission. Debbie, can you please do the roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Here.
Commissioner David?
Here.
Commissioner Matoush?
Here.
Commissioner Caravano?
Here.
President Brennan?
Here. And on the agenda this evening, we're going to start with public comment. And I have several speaker slips. Each person gets 3 minutes to speak. And is there a standing location over kind of
yeah, sorry, next time.
kind of right over here would be ideal. The first person is, and I apologize, Martha, if I butcher your name, I always have trouble with it, Martha Poyatos.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Martha Poyatos, and I know you have a busy agenda, and so I don't want to take up, I'm not going to take up the 3 minutes, but I am representing the local agency formation commissioner, LAFCO, and LAFCO is in the process of preparing a municipal service review. And at your last meeting in South San Francisco, I came and just provided an overview of what the municipal service review is and what areas would be studied. And so I just wanted to come out and renew my offer to do the same thing for your Miller Point constituents as well, maybe at an upcoming meeting. The consultant has met with staff and was very complimentary about how well staff was prepared to provide the information that wasn't available on the website. A lot of it was on the website, so that was good news too. And that's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you. So next speaker, we have John Olam.
Hey, I just wanted to, I know you guys got a lot of pressure over there. It looks like you're going through a lot of transition, personnel and whatnot, so I understand, but there's just a couple of things that have been pretty, I guess sloppy would be the right word. Firewall thing, I got a whole bunch of emails, or a whole bunch of invoices on that, and looked it up, and it's just like, the cost was just so outrageous that somebody really did not understand what they were getting. And so it's more likely to be served by $500 firewalls. It looked like you're shooting for $6,000 firewalls is what the estimate is for what you bought. So that was a little bit surprising to see that kind of decision was made without any kind of real discussion about it and our input. I looked at a lot of invoices for your current tech vendor and showed them to a guy that I work with that gets a lot of work down in Silicon Valley. He wants to give you his card, put it that way. He's really impressed with the amount of tech services that most that he would configure is with 15 to 20 people use, any kind of technology like the IT stuff in those offices. So you're spending a lot of money. It's $75 an hour and a lot of hours for your support. Tonight's meeting at 4 o'clock, that's really problematic for a lot of people. That's there was a lot of, you know, feeling that the previous board was using the start times of meetings as a tool to not only stifle any kind of people showing up, but to make it difficult for certain commissioners to be at the meetings. And so it's hard as heck for me to get to a 4 o'clock meeting, it's hard for me to get to a 6:30 meeting. And so I think that was a little bit disappointing to see that something was done like that, and what it appears is what was going on is you were discussing a manager or an employee, that's what it looks like, a senior employee. And so to make it difficult for people to show up and for commissioners to show up and all that, that's, you know, it's just not a good start. I hope that you'll consider that the next time you have a meeting like that. You've got some issues with your finance department and that you can't get people to show up. So I would like you to consider that you need to run this district. This district has been sort of let go for a long time. That's what we campaigned on. That's what we tried to get change for. So I hope you really consider that. There are a few more items, but I know there's a lot of people here and my time is up, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to comment that our 4 PM meeting was closed session anyway, so the public would not have been able to attend that particular segment. Just
I've gone to a couple of them. There's a public comment section before every closed
correct.
session.
And we did offer the people that were here today, we made that offer to them as well.
It's difficult for other people to get here. It's difficult for commissioners to get here. It's hard to make a living out in the Bay Area. You know, the world on that side of the hill is vicious. So.
Thank you. The next speaker is Dan Haggerty.
Good evening, Honorable Commissioners. I understand in the process of looking for a new general manager, and I just want to remind that the Village Point Harbor is very near and dear to me. I'd like to see that the postcard views be protected, and so the choice of the manager, general manager, is very important. So I'm requesting that it be completely full and open process, transparent, let the community buy in on it. Shoot for as close as possible to 100% buy-in on the choice between all the commissioners and the community. And is it possible that something can be put on the website to alert the community, get a little more outreach, so that everybody knows that we're in this process. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Charlie, and this is another last name I don't get right. McCall?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, my name is Charlie McAuliffe. I'm once again here, a little more prepared than last time, still nervous though, but just here to show face. Not just a name that's on a paper that has a story, a face that feels it was wronged by upper management, former management, and soon to be former upper management during my 8-year tenure with the district and directly following. I'm here to ask of the general manager to please extend, I'm not sure the proper term, the hire list for County Technician 1. I believe this has been done in the past. This would allow me to have the opportunity to interview for this position again. I've tested, I'm qualified, I'm available for hire. No training is required. It's a position that means so much to me. I feel I am a socially prominent member of this community. I believe that the candidate selected when I last interviewed and the temp who covered my weekend shifts after my termination both no longer work for the district. At this time, given current staffing levels and projected staffing levels in the months to follow, compiling a new certified list would be a complete waste of district funds and time. It's my hope in making this request that I can somehow begin to turn the clocks back, right? Okay, save face for this district. I feel it would be deemed, it would help, I feel, in undoing any possible claims I hold against the people I feel are responsible for not illegal, but wrongs that were done to me. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last public comment I have is Mike McHenry.
Good evening, Mike McKenna here. I've just got some questions that bothered me for quite a while. And, anyway, I just want to ask them real quick. Things like when the leases that we have out on the dock, there were no confines of the lease with these new leases. And it's almost, it's unheard of up and down the West Coast to have a lease without the confines, how many square footage you get. And it's created a lot of mystery. Nobody really knows where they can go and can't go. I'd also like to know, why did the bin and tote storage disappear after 30 years? And why did the bait freezers have to go? And why wasn't a new hoist offered to Pillar Point Seafood or Morning Star? And why, when we asked the harbor master about the rumor of a new hoist, he said no new hoist was going up. 1 week later, it was installed. Why was the general manager and harbor master in such a hurry to install the hoist that neither county or coastal commission permits were applied for? Why was a special sentence added in on the second lease for the 3 captains' new hoist? 3 days after we were pressured into signing the present lease, the general manager sent me a letter that we requested, saying he and the commission would review competing ports unloading fees. Why, after a year and a half, was it never done? Why, when we paid our monthly rent but didn't send in monthly fish reports, waiting for the general manager to get back to us on realistic unloading fees, was our lease put in default? I don't think anybody else's was that were late. Why, when 3 captains didn't pay all their unloading fees, did they get a choice spot for a new hoist? Was Pillar Point Seafood a fool for paying the fees as per the lease we grudgingly signed? Will fairness prevail? Or are we just out the money we paid? Why, when the general manager hit us with an audit, was there no due date? I personally talked to the auditor, and he said he only did what the district directed him to do. There's not an audit in the world I've ever seen without a due date. Why, in September 14th, was the general manager given a raise with everything in such disarray? Why did the general manager suddenly retire? Why did the grand jury scold the commission so severely? Why did the DA supposedly question some commissioners? Why was a $19,630 check found in a drawer after the 3rd public records request for fish unloading fees? Why were $38,000 in checks found in a drawer at Oyster Point? 2 more little shots. Why did Commissioner Tucker initiate vote to end the videotaping of the meetings about this time? And why did the general manager make frequent requests to shred the records? Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with all these new commissioners. I'm excited about it. This is just, it's bringing up some of the past stuff. I think we can come up with a really good lease that will work for everybody, and it is apparent that the lease that we have now are extremely hard to enforce. Thank you.
Thank you. So next, we're going to go to the consent calendar, and we have item 1, minutes of special meeting February 4th, 2015, and item 2, minutes of meeting February 4th, 2015. Oh yeah, special and regular meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Gargano?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. Now we're going to new business.
I thought I had to turn the paper in.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for pointing that out.
Now.
Well,
Actually, after number 6. Do you have someone?
I have 1 for 5. Did you have a regular?
well, I checked the public comment, you have to turn one in for
after 6.
Oh, I just saw item 5 and thought you wanted to speak to item 5. You want to do a regular public comment in addition to that?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you do that now?
All right.
Is there a hoist on the
Hello, my name is John Dooley, commercial
I was
fisherman
kidding.
at the harbor. I know that there's a lot of turmoil now down at the harbor, and it's all about the public hoist and everything like that, but I'm down at the harbor all the time, and I think there's a double standard going on at the harbor there. I saw a witness this week, Mike McHenry taking his hoist down, and there's no permits, nothing. He wasn't required to get any permits or anything, but he had 3 captains who's been raked over the coal. I just think that's a double standard. But on the other hand, the reason I went to public comment, I think all those hoists should be engineered, just like Larry's had to be, and therefore then we know we have a safe hoist there. I never brought to my attention before, but I was looking at Mike's hoist, and it's pretty old and it's bent, and so it's been stressed, and so therefore I think if an engineer looked at it, would probably condemn that hoist, and that's the second hoist. As far as those hoists that are mounted on wood, that's unacceptable in anything that's lifting weight off the boat or like that. The base has to be securely fastened, and they're not. And I just think that we have to, as a new commission, have to look at all those hoists and get them right. That's all I'm asking, just get them right, and so therefore everybody's on the same playing field, you know. And then I got the chance to review all the leases, and I'd like to ask the commission, the leases that were signed in 2013 only speak to 1,275 square feet. And I want to know, how is it that everybody gets so much extra space for free? Commissioner Brennan there always pounding the table that we need more revenue for the harbor, and that, well, you don't get it that way by just giving space away, you know. I think it's a gift of public funds is what I think it is. And I'd like that to be addressed somehow, some way. And I have no problem with them having it, I just want them to pay for it. If I had that lease, I would pay for it. I just measure out the square feet, pay for it, just like they do in San Francisco, Oakland, or any other place. You know, I mean, they just, you want to clean up the dock, let's clean up the dock, you know? And I'm just really upset that that all this double standard stuff is going on down at the harbor, when you can plainly see, if you're gonna call it one way for one person, you gotta call it the same for all the rest. You can't be just picking and choosing who you want to stab. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to go to new business, and we have item 3, which is a proclamation for Marietta Harris. And I'm going to read the proclamation so everybody can hear it. So it's to honor Marietta Harris, proclaimed by the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners, County of San Mateo, State of California, that whereas Marietta Harris has been a highly respected member of the San Mateo County Harbor District Management Team since January 8th, 2008, and whereas Marietta is a dedicated employee of the district, whereas Marietta, as a dedicated employee of the district, brought a high level of professionalism to her duties as human resource manager and worked to develop a culture of professional excellence among her colleagues. And whereas Marietta enthusiastically sought out new leadership opportunities beyond her routine human resources work assisting the general manager, and whereas Marietta discharged all duties and responsibilities of her employment in an exemplary manner throughout her tenure with the Harbor District, and in so doing provided continuous and immeasurable support to the General Manager. Now, therefore, be it known that the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners hereby extends its best wishes to Marietta Harris upon the occasion of her resignation on March 6, 2015, following 7 years of faithful and dedicated service on behalf of the staff, the Board of Harbor Commissioners, and the community of the San Mateo County Harbor District, and further extends its sincere best wishes for a rewarding, fulfilling future. So that is our resolution, and I think we have a public comment on this item, and I have one speaker slip, and that is John Ullum.
Yes, sir. How can I say? I spent last year reading about your district. I read stuff back to the 90s. I looked through minutes. I've seen videos. I've seen way too many videos. And so what I gotta say is that everything she said, that's like, it sounds all good and everything. That's kind of what you hear in everybody's send-off party. But this is all true. You've been holding the district together for over a decade. And I don't know how they're going to replace you. Because I've seen you clean disasters up a decade ago, and I don't know how else to put it. So you don't know what you're losing, because I know more about what she's done than anybody on this board, and you're going to have a hard time replacing her. That's fine.
Thank you.
And thanks for the PR request.
Would any commissioners like to make comments before we move to approve the resolution? Well, I would. I just wanted to personally thank you for your service to the district. I really appreciate the hard work that you've put into your years serving the district and serving the public. And I know it hasn't been easy. There's been some real challenges, and you have shown up and done an excellent job, and I really appreciate the work that you've done. So thank you. Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I move that we approve the resolution.
Second. Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. Okay, we've got item 4, which is,
Hold.
pulled? Oh, okay. Item 4 has been pulled. So we were going to have a report from the Resource Conservation District regarding the first flush results by Kellex Nelson, and that's going to be moved to a future meeting. We don't have a date yet, do we?
No, we do not. Yeah, we have
Okay.
scheduled.
Okay, so just stay tuned, because that will be rescheduled, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to hearing from Kellex. So next we're going to go to, are we calling the next item item 5 or item 4?
Item 5.
We are, okay. So next we're going to go to item 5, which is possible change in location of 3 Captain's Hoist at Pillar Point Harbor. And I know I want to give a point of information before we get started. I know there's been questions about why this item was agendized, and this item was agendized by staff due to safety concerns about the hoist. So I just wanted to clarify that up front. We have a...
Wait a minute, I'd like to, perhaps we have a correction of that statement?
Can we move to the informational
I question what you just said as to why this is on the agenda was brought on by
Well, if
staff.
you'd like to make a point of clarification, go ahead.
Your name is on this report.
Well, there are other people's names on other reports too that staff put on the agenda.
But I think what you said is wrong.
Okay, you're entitled to your own opinion. All right, so let's get to the report. Scott, do you want to read this to the board or to the public? Or do you?
Actually, what I'd like to do is just walk through some of the pictures
Oh.
first of the PowerPoint.
Okay.
I don't know if everyone can see because it is a small screen, but kind of just walk through this. Thank you. Many people haven't been to Pillar Point or to the pier end where you would see the hoist, the freezers, and we've had a lot of discussions over the 2 or 3 years of those topics, so I wanted to make sure we walk through that. Let me see if I'm hitting the right button here. Photos of the present hoist. Presently, Pillar Point Point Seafood has 2 hoists in front of the building in the center face area. Morningstar has 1 hoist in the corner of the building, rear face corner area. And Three Captains has 1 on the back side of the building, and the new one on the face of the pier waiting coastal commission permit approval. And that would be Pillar Point Seafood's 2 hoists. The yellow one is the smaller one, the larger one is obviously the closer to the picture. My fingers are bigger than the button here, sorry. Okay, this would be Morningstar Fisheries. They have 1 smaller type hoist on the back side of the pier. Three Captains Sea Products has this one on the very back of the buildings of the pier. And then this newer one on this waiting coastal commission permit on the front of the pier. Then continuing on, these are the photos of the bait freezers on Johnson Pier. The one in the white directly in the center of the picture is the bait freezer, the door off to the left, where you can't see it, it's a container, refrigerated container. The blue is Three Captains. The white in this picture next to the blue is Pillar Point Seafood in white. Not sure whose bicycle it is. Here is a Google map of the pier showing the different locations of the hoists on the pier, so that I know the picture's not as big as it could be, but a little bit of orientation of where they are on the pier. The 3 buyers' locations, Morningstar in the top of the picture, Three Captains in the middle, Pillar Point Seafood on the bottom left.
So, Scott, could you explain to people that it's, what the space is like, that it's sort of like a garage stall type of?
Yeah, it's basically a large rectangular building with an upstairs. Each of them have the equivalent of a roll-up garage door on the front and or a door on the back as well, depending on the space itself. And then again, the bait freezer is just in their orientation to the front of that building that's on the pier. And then back to the discussion item of the hoist of Three Captains.
Okay. So I'm gonna read, thank you, the staff report. And because there are a lot of people here that are interested in this item, we don't usually read the full staff report, but I think it makes sense tonight. So the title is Possible Change in Location of Three Captains Hoist at Pillar Point Harbor. Recommendations, there are 3 options listed. Option 1 is authorize and direct the acting general manager to notify all 3 fish buyers in writing that future hoist installations and or proposed hoist location changes will be brought to the Harbor Commission for consideration during regular Harbor Commission meetings. Require that all necessary permits be obtained in advance of hoist installation. Require that copies of all permits be provided to the Harbor District General Manager for verification before final approval of hoist installation. Option 2, authorize and direct the acting general manager to send a letter notifying Three Captains that the Harbor District is discontinuing the March 28, 2014 probationary agreement effective April 2nd, 2015. The leasee will have until July 2nd, 2015, so that's 3 months, to remove the hoist and apply for a location change that must be approved by the Harbor Commission. And authorize and direct the acting general manager to notify all 3 fish buyers in writing that the future hoist installation and or proposed hoist location changes will be brought to the Harbor Commission for consideration during regular Harbor Commission meetings. Require that all necessary permits be obtained in advance of hoist installation. Require that copies of all permits be provided to the Harbor District General Manager for verification before final approval of installation. Option 3, direct the acting general manager to continue the district's approval of the present location of Three Captains Hoist location while its application for a coastal development permit is pending, and revisit the issue of the location of the hoist until after the Coastal Commission has acted on the issue. Background: on April 15, April 15th through the 16th, 2014, a new hoist was installed on Johnson Pier near the fuel dock. The hoist location was approved by the harbor master for a 1-year probationary period ending April 1st, 2015. The Harbor Commission has authority to determine hoist location on Harbor District property. The 2012 fish fire lease agreements specify the following terms. I'm just going to kind of skip to the highlighted areas, so if you guys want to read the full thing, there is a board packet on the table, unless somebody objects. Fish fire lease agreement 9.0, 9.1 use, B1I. Tenant may provide a second winch and hoist at a location approved in advance by the harbor master. Section 9.2.2, compliance with laws and legal requirements. Tenant shall obtain and pay for all licenses and permits required for tenant's construction and occupancy and use of the premises. Compliance with laws and legal requirements shall include compliance with all requirements of each regulatory agency that has jurisdiction over the premises, including but not limited to the Department of Boating and Waterways and the County of San Mateo. Section 9.2.3, other permits and approvals. Should other permits, licenses, and or approvals other than set forth in this lease be required to make alterations or improvements or to operate the premises as a fish buying operation or other use explicitly permitted hereunder, or if a failure to procure such a license or permit might or would in any way affect landlord or the ability of tenant to operate its business, it shall be the sole responsibility of the tenant to obtain and comply with the requirements of said permits, licenses, and or other approvals. Harbor District Probationary Agreement. On March 28, 2014, the owner of 3 captains signed an agreement with Harbor Master Scott Grindy. The agreement was first provided to the Harbor Commission on January 16, 2015, 10 months after it was signed. The content of the March 28, 2014 agreement follows. For our records and files, you are authorized to install the noted hoist on the face side of the Johnson Pier at the location we have recently agreed to. Your installation will be a probationary or tentative installation and location for up to 1 year as a trial for our use review. The end date of the noted 1 year will be April 1st, 2015. Being this is your equipment, if there is a move required due to issues, the cost of location change will be borne by 3 captains. The working space for the second hoist is to be 25 feet long and 8 feet wide deep, and area will be marked by a red line of paint to identify the space. As part of this activity, the original space across the pier will be given up upon hoist installation and red line painted in. Additionally, please make copies of any and all signed off permits, and if so required, copies of hoist certification inspections, and forward them to me. Thank you for working with us on this installation opportunity and striving to keep the fish unloading safe and secure for all parties. Permit status. To date, the required coastal development permit, which is called a CDP, has not been obtained by 3 captains. On November 6, 2014, the California Coastal Commission removed a proposed CDP waiver from the Deputy Director's report for the November 2014 Coastal Commission hearing. Currently, CDP application number 214-1592 is being processed. However, additional information was requested by Coastal Commission staff. Because Coastal Commission staff considers the CDP application to be incomplete, a hearing date has not been set. The refrigerated bait containers. Board action on January 21st, 2015, item 10, approved notifying the Coastal Commission that an electrical project CDP for relocation of refrigerated containers on Johnson Pier will no longer be requested. Analysis. Safety is paramount for operating any equipment on Johnson Pier, and added congestion has the potential of causing an unsafe condition on the pier. Fiscal impact. Because the lease the leasee has not obtained a CDP, they cannot use the hoist. Therefore, the district is not obtaining any fee revenue. The potential for safety concerns should outweigh future revenue considerations. Conclusion, limiting hoist location to less congested traffic area would improve operational safety conditions on Johnson Pier and better serve the district and the public. Alternatives, after a coastal development permit is obtained, monitor operational safety concerns for an additional time period or until an accident or injury occurs. So that's the memo, and we have some public comments, so I'm going to move to that. So the first person is Brian Rogers.
Yeah, my name is Brian Rogers. I've spoken here before. This is coming from just a public citizen watching this go on. And what I've noticed is that it appears in the first two options that you're trying to change the contract that exists. And to do that, you need approval from Boating and Waterways. You can't just direct the harbor master to do it and say, here you go, have a nice day. It's been clear watching this all go along that the contract was followed. The harbor master made an agreement, told them where to put it, they put it up. The fact that some people are unhappy about that, I understand that, but the contract is the contract. They can read it. It's been clearly stated in these meetings that neither the district nor the fish buyer had any idea that they needed that coastal commission permit. And so to go after them because it's taken a long time to get that from them seems a little unrealistic. In trying to read through the packet today, 200 plus pages on this was a little overwhelming and, in my opinion, ridiculous. One of the things included in there appeared to be the commissioner's compensation. I have no idea what that had to do with the hoist, but it was in there. It seemed a little odd. It seemed to have been included for something else, but was included in the hoist packet. Let's see. Yeah, from the taxpayer standpoint, this seems to be a lot of wasted money. You're going after something that is pretty clear was in the contract, was allowable, and the legal fees that the district is spending currently is out of control. Absolutely, the number is higher than it's ever been in the past, and this is going to incur a whole lot more. This is, you're wasting funds and you're wasting time to go after something. I'll give you credit that the transparency is getting a little better. It's pretty clear who bought a majority of the commissioners, and you're doing his bidding. And I find that kind of, I expected it, but the level that you're going after people and is a little unacceptable. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next we have John Dooley.
Well, I'm here to speak about the hoist. Three captain as I'm one of the commercial fishermen that delivered to Larry, and I really believe that he's landlocked back there, and all the fishermen, that they all signed a petition to keep the hoist where it's at on the dock there and not let it be moved, because it's an advantage to the people that work for Larry. Larry's at a disadvantage, and if revenue is what you're looking to bring to the harbor, the only way you can do that is to be able to unload boats. Boats have to get their crab pots out, and I think it's real important that we keep that hoist there, and he can run it for, I think his contract says it runs for a year, and after it's been approved and used, and then we can look at it again and see if it's a detriment to the hoist, I guess, but at the end of the day, I just think that three captains is at a disadvantage. I'd like to know, I can't find where and how this hoist got shoved to the Coastal Commission. I didn't understand, I went back and in the last board, where they directed anybody to go to the Coastal Commission, and put in the 2 cents about the hoist. And I think that Sabrina Brennan has been doing her best to stab this in the back, and I don't know if it's why she's doing that, because if she's truly for supporting the harbor and generating new revenue for the harbor and everything like that, she should be all in favor of a hoist, you know? And then last thing I'd like to talk about is that I think we should start focusing on, you know, there's room on that dock. It has to be managed a little different, and everything will flow like water. That's all it has to, and it won't bother nobody where that hoist is. And again, I really hope that this sets the precedent where all these hoists get engineered. If anybody knows anything about hoists or anything like that, they can see that some of the hoists are old and they're stressed, and they shouldn't be in operation. Larry had to go through a whole review and engineering, and everything had to be passed. I think that should be required from everybody. That's safety. And you're about safety because you said it's safety, right? The way I see it, Larry Furtado has the only safest hoist on the dock. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mark Schaefer.
Mark Shear?
Oh, sorry, Shear.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Mark Shear and I represent 3 captains. And much of what I would say tonight is in a letter that I sent to each of the commissioners and submitted. I have additional copies here if anyone would like to see it, but it walks through how this came about, how the approval came about. And I think that approval can best be summarized by the district's own council, where it said, in a letter to Pillar Point, where the council said, the placement of the additional hoist, which 3 captains, Sea Products, like Pillar Point Seafood, has a right to under 9.0 parens B parens I of the lease, was approved by the district's harbor master after careful consideration of the location of the existing fire protection equipment, the location of the existing freezers, the needs of the work dock, locating the hoist at any other location would have required impractical relocation of other facilities to the detriment of all lessees, including Pillar Point. So I think that's very important. This was not an arbitrary decision to locate this hoist in this particular location. It was carefully considered. As I understand it, it was even considered by the commission, and the conversation went on for some extended period of time. It's also important to understand that this lease, all of the leases are identical. They are absolutely, all of the leases provide for two hoists. They all provide that the harbor master shall designate the location. And 3 captains did exactly as they were entitled to under the lease. They went to the harbor master specified a location, and after getting permission from the harbor master to erect it, he erected it. When it came to light that the coastal permit might be required, he said, okay, and went and applied for it, at great expense. So here we are, and we have this coastal permit application pending, and it comes up on a notice, and it was going to be a waiver on November 13th. However, there were a number of people, including Commissioner Brennan, who immediately after that notice came out, contacted the Coastal Commission and objected to that waiver. And as a result of that, they immediately took it off of the agenda. It was going to be on the November 13th agenda. Presumably it would have passed because it was a waiver. He would have been able to use the hoist starting on November 15th when eventually the crab fishery opened. But now, here we are going through it. And I will say that one update on the information, we have an application status letter. The filing is complete, and it is intended to be on the April 15th through 17th hearing schedule. So, it's inappropriate to suggest that 3 captains is not in compliance with its lease because it requires that they go through, what, 3 minutes up? Or are we 30 seconds?
I'm sorry, that's the end of the 3 minutes, it's up to the...
Well, then in closing, I would say that my recommendation is that, request is that you take no action. Allow this lease to be used, this hoist to be used in its location after passage before you can have any data upon which to decide to move it, you have to let them use it and see whether or not there is in fact congestion, because otherwise it's pure speculation. And that's not a basis on which a public body can act. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to make a couple of points of clarification based on that public comment, because a lot of that was directed at me personally. My communications with the Coastal Commission were as an individual, not as a representative of this district, and I've always made that clear. As far as the waiver, I had absolutely nothing to do with the Coastal Commission deciding to pull the permit waiver. The decision to pull the permit waiver happened before I met with the Coastal Commission, and I did not meet with the Coastal Commission regarding the permit waiver. So that decision was made based on a meeting that the Coastal Commission had with the Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association, not on any meeting that I had with the Coastal Commission. So that is incorrectly stated, and that's been repeated in some letters I've seen. So I just want to clarify that, and if you check with the Coastal Commission, I'm sure they will confirm that, because when I arrived at the Coastal Commission, their decision to pull the waiver had already happened, and that can be backed up. So just want to clear that up. And then as far as the hoist not having been used, it's my understanding that there's a video of the hoist being used on YouTube. So I don't know how often the hoist has been used, but there is a video of the hoist in use on YouTube. So I know it's been used to some degree. I don't know how often, because I don't work at Pillar Point Harbor. All I know is I've seen the video. So just wanted to clear that up too. Next, we have Mike McHenry.
Good evening, you know who I am by now. To start off, this gets down to the hoist. I wish to address the board regarding the hoist that had caused so much controversy and discord in our port for the last year. The hoist was not offered to the other fish buying facilities. It was a backroom deal. There was special wording put in. We had lease number 1, if anybody likes to see it, which we were operating on. And it was stopped because Jeff Betancourt got in a squabble with him, and some other reasons it was stopped. Well, the same lease was handed back to us with one change. It went from $3,000 a month to $2,500. We looked at it, strummed through it. Brunel goes, "Here, sign it." Or I got people standing outside. Okay, we'll take it, but with the understanding you've got to bring the charges into with competing ports. Okay, we do this. The next thing, this hoist shows up. What happened here? What's going on? Oh, there was a sentence snuck in there. There was a sentence snuck in there. Lo and behold, a little thing that said under 9.1-1, tenant may provide a second winch and hoist at a location approved in advance by the harbor master. Well, this was so dirty, my antennas came up, and I says, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I start looking around. This sounds like something bad. So I made some requests for the fish buying fees. Well, the fish buying fees I get is that 3 captains that pay $1,301, Morningstar $5,500, and I paid $37,000. I paid $10 a ton under protest. I didn't want to pay it, but I signed the lease. And I go, no. So we get a second public request. $1,301 again for 3 captains. Well, there's 20, 30 semis a day coming off the dock. And so we finally, on the third request, they found a $19,360 check that was in a drawer. I guess it was like Oyster Point. Darn. Well, that brings 3 captains up to $27,000. Well, on the fourth request, They got up to $37,000, the same as we were. The fifth report, I guess they were happy, so they left it at that figure. That was it. And you wonder why I'm upset about this. I got, there was no reports. Came in July from 3 captains. And right here, I got an article. Half Moon Bay Review. Squid being unloaded. Hundreds and hundreds of tons. This was on July 24th. And this article was written on Thursday, 8 days before, or 6 days before. That's the 18th of July. Why didn't he send his money in? Well, as it turns out, I went and got the reports from the Monterey Fish and Game, because I know the people, I work with them all the time. They gave me 7,619 tons were delivered in Half Moon Bay. We unloaded 3,000. There's 4,500 tons missing.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
There you go. And I paid a lot of money, and where I was raised, you went to prison when you cheated, something like that. You don't get a new hoist.
I'd like to answer some of that stuff that you say.
We're in public comment right now, and I'm going to call the next speaker, which is Jeff Betancourt.
Hello, my name is Jeff Betancourt. I'm fourth generation in one of the longest standing fishing families in this community. And I'd like to say that, you know, I know you guys are tasked with a lot of old stuff that was left. And this is going to be a really difficult time when there's all this stuff that's left, these open sores and all these problems. So it's going to be really difficult for us to try to find new ground and new ways to work this out. So I'm going to read you what I wrote. So, like I say, I know there's been a lot of challenges with the fish buying leases and the installation of the hoist that has been going on for what feels like a very long time. I feel that, like tonight, we're standing at a crossroads is between the old way of doing business and the new way of doing business. And hopefully it's going to be the new way of business. I wish no ill will on 3 captains whatsoever. I fished for Larry and known Larry since I was a very small boy. I believe there's been a lot of things said tonight where Mr. Furtado has operated 35 years at that location happily and had a very successful and long-standing business. And when it gets spun that, he can't make it, and he's hurt, and he's all this stuff, it doesn't seem like you're being delivered fair information. I really think the truth of the matter, if you ask anyone, that's a factual matter. And if we felt, me personally felt that Larry was being attacked personally over something, I would be in Larry's corner. I don't feel that. I feel that Larry has gotten caught up in the good old give you a hug from Grinnell when he's really sticking a knife in your back. And I actually feel bad for Larry, I really do. And what I want to say is I hope that today, after I look through all the documents about this hoist, I mean, there's just constant examples of lack of transparency and accountability and just the old practices of the past. So I hope that today we can put that stuff behind us. We can start a new thing with a new commission, collaboration and productivity from the fishing community and make this stop, because I feel that tonight is a very important night that we're going to find out how things are going to go in the future. And I really want to thank you guys, and I want to, even though it's not my fault, I want to apologize if you got thrown in this situation that is obviously hard. But I hope that we can find a closure today that is satisfactory.
Thank you. I assume this is for 5, the new speaker slip for this item. So I'm going to call Larry Furtado.
I just want to answer some of the stuff Mike's saying that the one time the money was a little late, I went to Scott and I told him I'm having a hard time getting the money from the guy. And when I did get it, I turned in and they put it in as a fish buying off the dock. was a mistake by the girl who worked there. The money was in. So that's all a bunch of bullshit. And I think, he's been saying a lot of things that are not true, I don't want to get into it, but out there, I'm telling you, every dollar's been paid. And the reason why the harbor is making so much money, because I'm unloading all the boats, and McKinley finally had to start unloading the other boats. Thank you.
And next we have Porter McHenry.
I am Porter McHenry, president of the Acton Bay Seafood Marketing Association. Just got a short letter to read.
You can share it.
For the past 14 months, the concerns of Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association have remained the same as they were at the January 15, 2014 meeting, and we presented a letter which stated, "We believe that changes to the infrastructure on which fishermen depend require a great deal of consideration and planning. Therefore, we would like to request that the industry members be consulted and allowed to participate in the process prior to any hoist installations or infrastructure changes that affect the fleet. We believe that the board now has an opportunity to bring about a significant positive change and do what we asked a year ago. We are optimistic that tonight's vote will create an open and transparent process in infrastructure changes and pave the way for future collaboration with the commercial fishing fleet." Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so does anybody have any clarifying questions? No, sorry, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bernardo.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First of all, this 200-plus page document, who prepared the staff report? Who put it together?
The staff? I mean, is that a question for me, or are you asking the
I'm
staff?
asking the staff.
The staff pulled it together from Commissioner Brennan's website for a majority of the items.
I'm sorry, from Commissioner Brennan's website, is that what you said? Okay, thank you. The second question that I have is, do we have a timeline regarding the coastal commission approval? I'm sorry, I think you touched upon that. Can you clarify that, please?
Yes, I can speak to that. The application is complete. They tentatively scheduled it to be on the April 15th.
What date was that letter? Please provide it.
Yeah. I have the original here, so I'm trying to.
Okay, April 15th.
A copy, I can
Yeah,
provide
you
a
can.
copy.
Thank you, April 15th.
But see, this is the original.
What's the date?
February 27th.
February 27th, I'll read it for everybody so they can hear it. Application of status letter filed complete, it says. February 27th, okay. And this is to Mark, and it says, application number 214-1592, 3 captains. Dear Mr. Furtado and Mr. Shearer, your Coastal Commission application was filed on February 27th, 2015, and has been scheduled tentatively for a commission hearing on April 15th in San Rafael, the north central coast area. This tentative scheduling information is being provided for your convenience and is subject to change. Written notification of final scheduling of the hearing along with a copy of the staff report will be mailed to you approximately 10 days prior to the hearing. If you have any questions regarding your application, please contact me, blah, blah, blah. Sincerely, Renee Ananda. Here you go.
And I'll provide a copy if you'd like.
I think I don't need it, I just
I
need
think
the
this
date. Thank you.
district will get a copy of it. Scott, have you received a copy of
I
that?
don't know if I've seen that.
Okay, and then,
You had
I'm
something?
sorry, yeah, not finished yet. Thank you for that. I have a question from our council. The question that I have is, we are given here in this report 3 options. Which option poses the least amount of legal exposure and risk for the district, in your opinion? Based on these 3 here.
So, you have, I'll answer your question in two ways. You have in your packet, there's a letter from Mr. Shear, representing Free Captain Safety, from, and I have earlier advised the board about that letter, and my advice has not changed. I have nothing new has changed to make me reconsider that advice. I'm a little uncomfortable offering a legal opinion on a matter given the nature of the letter that's been submitted to you by Mr. Shear. So I think I'll leave it at that.
Right, but I'm asking you of these three options. You haven't answered my question.
Okay.
I'm not talking about a letter or anything that's circulating. I'm talking about these three options that are posed to the commission tonight.
So, I think I would request, to be perfectly honest, that the full board vote to ask me to answer that question, because I'm concerned that that answer might be a confidential and privileged communication that I would not ordinarily make in public, and I lack the ability to waive that privilege myself. I realize that's not a satisfactory answer, but I feel constrained in my ability to answer you.
Okay.
I'm really sorry, Commissioner
Right.
Bernardo, I'm not trying to duck your question.
I'm looking for some, you know,
Could
advice here, but if you can't answer the
I'm
question.
going to try to help. Stephen, could you perhaps explain that you reviewed this memo before it was included in the board packet?
I did review it.
Right, he reviews all of them, but here's my question. My question is, I'm trying to make a decision that involves legal risk, and I need to know from our counsel to give me advice on the legal risk before I can make a decision.
In anything one does in life, I can answer you in general. The less one does, the less risk one has. If you want no risk, you stay at home. When you open the door and go outside, there is some risk. So I would answer your question by saying the least legal risk is presented by taking the least action. I don't really know how else I can answer your question.
Okay, thank you. I think you've just answered it. Okay. I just want to say finally, I'm going to vote to abstain on this item based on legal risk and also based on just policy. I believe that harbor commissioners, this is my own opinion as the policymaker, I don't believe that commissioners should be micromanaging operations. I don't want to set precedent for that, and I don't think that we should be doing that. That's why we empower a general manager and a harbor master. They work with our council to work on leases, to work on the interpretation of leases. I do not believe that if I go down this slippery slope of doing something with this particular lease, in this particular case, with this particular hoist, in the future, then we should open up the books to everything and do that for every single operation at the district. I don't think that sets good precedent, and I'm going to abstain on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just would like to respond to that briefly with, you know, if you read this memo, this is about the lease, and when a leasee is not in compliance with their lease, it is appropriate for the staff to bring that to the attention of the board, because, you know, that's why we have a lease, to make sure that people are in compliance. So it is appropriate for the staff to bring incompliant leases to the attention of the board.
Thank you. I wasn't asking a question, but thank you.
And also, if the staff has concerns about safety, it is appropriate to bring safety concerns to the board as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments, clarifying questions?
Yeah, I think the discussion I heard raises for me quite a much larger legal picture. Is, first of all, when this agenda item was first introduced, the board chair said that asked the acting general manager to introduce this agenda item, and yet her name is on this report, on this agenda item. And upon further inquiry, Mr. Grindy stated that the information in these 300-plus pages that we received tonight for this one agenda item were taken off of the board president's website. And I'm just thinking, is that a little too close for comfort when there could be a perceived conflict of interest here? That a personal website was used to generate a public document that for public review and a possible decision made by a public agency. So I think, to me, it's a very dangerous slope that I think that this agenda item and the discussion that we had this evening and the disclosures that we had this evening raised for me as a commissioner.
I'd like to respond to that. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the website. I know that it might be hard for some people to understand that aren't maybe as used to using technology, but websites are often used for sharing documents. And documents are posted on my website that are public documents. The staff has all of those documents archived at the district for the most part. And additional documentation was included by the staff in the board packet that is not on my website. So let's just back up here. The district hasn't archived all of its documents yet. Our district is kind of old school in that we have boxes of papers and piles of maps and this and that, and it's hard to find stuff. So on my website, I have the documents that I think relate, and I tried to make sure that documents related to all parties were included, because I think it's very important to approach this in an even-handed way, to level the playing field, to make sure that the board has a clear representation of all the various parties' interests, and not to prioritize one party over another party. And so there are documents that are accessible, which I frankly think would be on the district's website, but that's another issue. Now they are, because they're in the board packet, so finally all these documents are accessible on the district's website. They pertain to all the various parties, from Morningstar Fisheries to Three Captains to Pillar Point Seafood and a whole bunch of other stuff. The idea was, let's just get it all out there on the website, the Harbor District's website, in one place so everybody can see what everybody else has written about, or their perspective, the Coastal Commission's letters, just get it all out there so that we have an even basis for making informed decisions. So it was purely an effort to try to provide information accurately. Now, the new letter from the Coastal Commission, I didn't know existed, and if I had known that that letter existed, it would have also been included. And also the new letter from Three Captains' attorney, we only received that letter last night or yesterday, and so that did not get into the board packet because the board packet had already been produced. Had it come in sooner, it most definitely would have been included in the board packet, and there is another letter from Three Captains' attorney in the board packet. So it was an attempt to take a very even-handed approach to providing the public with accurate information as best as possible. And there may be a few things missed, but in general, I think it's pretty much all there. It is a lot of information. What was excluded was a copy of the actual lease, and all three fish buyers do have identical leases. That would have made the board packet a lot thicker. And there was one other document, what was it, Scott, that was left out?
Grand jury.
Yeah, the grand jury report was left out, and that's referenced in some of these other documents. So there was an attempt made to reduce the paper. Our board packets are often thick. This is large, but it's certainly not the biggest board packet we've ever had. So it's up there. As far as the issue, so that's kind of all I have to say about providing public information. As far as the issue, or let's say in addition to the issue that Commissioner Paravano mentioned, I have a question, which is, I don't understand why Commissioner Paravano recused himself from the fish buying fee issue and walked out of the meeting because of a conflict with his business, and why he's sitting here now when he has the same conflict in this with this agenda item. So I would appreciate if Commissioner Paravano could explain to the board and the public his decision to recuse himself regarding fish buying fees and not recuse himself for this item. I'm just hoping that he can provide some clarification on that.
Point of order, through the chair. I thought we were talking about agenda item 5 and not Commissioner Paravano's.
This is a point of order, and it's a point of order that I'm asking for, which is...
This is not relevant to what the discussion is.
It is relevant because it's a lot of public members have asked me about this, and I think that Commissioner Paravano owes the public some sort of explanation, whatever it is, whatever the explanation is. It would be nice to hear it.
I would recuse myself from this agenda item if I had a conflict of interest.
Do you want to tell us why you had a conflict with the fish buying fees and not this?
That's not on this agenda item.
But it's a question the public has. They don't understand why you're recusing for some things related to fish buying and not other things related to fish.
I will decide that when we get there.
Okay. So I have some more to say, but I want to give the other board members an opportunity. Are there any other comments or questions? Nothing?
So I worry about the process of how the information got pulled together for this item and put on the agenda. I think this is not the way that I would like things to be conducted at the district with the necessary transparency and objectivity. And coming back to the agenda item, to the topic of the agenda item, I think that the leases clearly state that all required permits for, that includes the installation and the operation, are the sole responsibility of the tenant. And so I think the Harbor District can approve the location, but the tenant has to obtain the permits before starting any construction. And this is the correct process in my mind, and I think that's the process we should follow. Because we also, like John Dewey pointed out, we have an obligation, a huge obligation to safety, and I really want to thank John for making recommendations, really good recommendations for the board to follow up on other issues that are not part of this agenda item, but that I've noticed and will definitely take into consideration.
Do you have anything?
It seems to me that option 3 is incomplete. So now all of a sudden, Mr. Shearer has brought us a letter that's saying this has been approved.
No, it has not been approved.
Well, that he's got a tentative date.
Hearing.
And we've got 1 year sitting here, and his year period is basically up April 1st. I guess what I believe is missing from 3 is, are we going to have more delays from the Coastal Commission, and then what happens? How long do we keep stringing this thing along? How long do we torture everybody in the harbor? How long do we torture Mr. Furtado? If the hoist was in its original position, we wouldn't be having this discussion. However, that could limit some of the unloading. However, you want to get rid of the conflict, we could make a lot of this go away. We're talking about a process to follow. the process wasn't followed. The process that we've got here says, get the permits, then put it in. That didn't happen. We put it in before the permits.
You know, they told me to put the hoist in. All that
Excuse
is
me.
over get a electric permit.
Can we have order, please? A public comment period is over. Thank you.
Okay. I'm done.
Would anyone like, do you have anything else? Anybody? Okay.
If I may, through the chair,
Yes.
as a member of the staff, I think on several occasions, we've questioned the fact that I think I've been here for 8 years and they've all been here for 30, and no one's ever known that anything has to have a permit. So I think that's why the hoist was put up without the permit, is because there's never in their history, my history, had to have a permit for anything on the pier. So that's just all I want to add to that as a member of staff, because I know I think I've spoken to the assistant harbor masters on that a few times, and that would be why it was put up without a permit, because there's never been one needed.
Thank you for that point of clarification, and I don't disagree with you. And I did appreciate Commissioner David's point about how the information was collected. It was a very trying process to try to collect the information related to this. I think that I tried to help staff as best I could. I think staff struggled with it, and it wasn't the ideal process. So I wish the process had been a little different. But at the end of the day, we do have a lot of relevant information here, which I hope is helpful to the public. With regard to staff's understanding about permit requirements, this is nothing new. The permit requirements have been this way for a long time. I can't explain why the staff didn't know that. I think we've gotten away with not following the process for a very long time, and that came to light with regards to the electrical permit for the parking lot, which also permits were not sought by the staff, and the Coastal Commission had issue with that as well. So I think it's clear now who the proper authority is to seek permits from initially, which is the Coastal Commission, because obviously not at Oyster Point, because they're not within the jurisdiction of the Coastal Commission, but at Pillar Point Harbor, the majority of the land is on fill, and the pier is over water. If something is built on fill, or if it's a structure over water, then the Coastal Commission is the permitting authority. They have jurisdiction. That is not a new rule. That's been the case for a very, very long time. So it's unfortunate that the staff didn't know about that, but that's why we have legal counsel, to help advise the staff so that we don't follow the wrong procedures. So I'm not sure why that wasn't communicated, but we all know what the rules are now, and the process is that, you know, if we want to do pretty much anything, whether it's, you know, make slight modifications to a restroom structure, or do a floating dock project, or literally pretty much anything, we have to seek a Coastal Commission permit, and there's always the possibility that we could get a waiver, and that's the process. So that's not the only process, but that's the start of the process, to the best of my understanding. So if no one else wants to make a motion, I'm happy to do it. Would you like to make a motion? Would you like to make a motion?
I have one more comment.
Yeah.
Because Commissioner Bernardo mentioned legal exposure from this vote tonight, or our decision tonight, I'm also concerned about potential legal obligations or you know, safety issues coming out of this decision tonight, because we do have a huge obligation to safety for every worker on the pier and for the public who visits or, you know, this area, this narrow area where the pier is located right now, frequently on busy weekends. So I just wanted, it's a tough decision to make, and I'm trying to balance both sides and my concerns, and wanted to just express that.
Thank you. Did you have anything else?
No, just option 3 is, in my view, incomplete. It doesn't spell out what would happen given a few more weeks to look at the permit. So in spite of that, you either push the thing down the road till something else happens, or you have to go with option 2, because that's what was in writing for this entire process. We've had a year, and somehow the permit was not completed within a year and put into operation. So I'd like to have seen a way that turned out different, but it didn't.
Commissioner Matush, we want to make sure you understand that you are not restricted to these 3 options. You are welcome to make a motion to modify something as you see fit. Your motion, not anyone else's. I don't mean you personally, but.
Right.
Would anyone like to make a motion? Okay. I move option 2, authorize the, sorry, too much reading tonight. Authorize and direct the acting general manager to send a letter notifying 3 captains that the Harbor District is discontinuing the March 28, 2014 probationary agreement effective April 2nd, 2015. The leasee will have until July 2nd, 2015 to remove the hoist and apply for a location change that must be approved by the Harbor Commission, and authorize and direct the acting general manager to notify all 3 fish buyers in writing that future hoist installations and/or proposed hoist location changes will be brought to the Harbor Commission for consideration during regular Harbor Commission meetings. Require that all necessary permits be obtained in advance of hoist installation. Require that copies of all permits be provided to the Harbor District General Manager for verification before final approval of installation. Can I get a second? If there's no discussion.
I would like to amend that and change the word Harbor Commission, because there were concerns brought up that this would actually change the language of the lease, which I don't think we can do. So I don't have a solution for this right now, but I think we should probably,
can you point it out?
well, the end of the first paragraph, and the leasee will have until July 2nd to remove the hoist and apply for location change. That must be approved by the Harbor Commission. That would be basically different from what the lease says right now. Is that correct?
Well, Stephen Miller, could you clarify, because what you told me was that when we discussed this question, you said that, where is it? Sorry, find it. The Harbor Commission has authority to determine hoist location on Harbor District property. So you said that the Harbor Commission has the ultimate authority per the lease.
Well, I think what I said was that the Harbor Commission is the ultimate authority of the agency, and that everybody sitting in this, all of us work at your pleasure. I think I would appreciate an opportunity to consider a little more thoroughly and thoughtfully this issue as to whether this language that Commissioner David has pointed out actually changes the terms of the lease. I think that's a question that I guess I'd appreciate a little time to really get back to you on.
So how should we go about this right now? Should we just change it to the harbor master?
Or the general manager?
That's still changing the lease. The lease.
This isn't changing the lease. There's nothing about this that changes the lease. The lease still stands. We're not changing the lease.
You could authorize, trying to be helpful here, not
Yeah.
instructions. You could authorize the harbor master to notify the board before he or she gives any approval under the lease.
Okay, so how would you change the sentence? The leasee will have until July 2nd, 2015 to remove the hoist and apply for a location change that must be, what?
Approved by the harbor master.
Approved by the harbor master, who consults, is that?
I'm not sure I'm following you. Where you're on the second, option 2, paragraph 2?
Or
Paragraph 1.
End of paragraph 1, where it ends with Harbor Commission.
Why not put a period after the word change?
Okay, the leasee will have until July 2nd, 2015 to remove the hoist and apply for a location change, and then we just end it there. And then below it, it explains the process. Does everybody need time to read it? Any other changes or amendments? Okay, so, Ms. Nixon, did you get that change? Do you want me to restate it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so option 2, the only change is the last sentence in the first paragraph, and we would delete the end of the last sentence, and there would be a period after the word change.
Could you state the motion?
Yeah.
Can I make one more request, actually?
Yes.
As I'm thinking about this? How about in paragraph 2, after the last word, which now is meetings, put a comma prior to harbor master approval, so that it will read that authorize and direct the acting general manager to notify all 3 fish buyers in writing that future hoist installations and/or proposed hoist location changes will be brought to the Harbor Commission for consideration during regular Harbor Commission meetings prior to harbor master approval.
Okay. Any
Is that
other?
acceptable to the board, it's your, I think it's, I can't remember who made the motion.
I made the
Is that
motion.
acceptable
That
to everybody?
sounds fine to me. Does that seems to work well with your amendment? Are there any additional changes before I restate the motion? Okay, I'm going to restate the motion. Option 2, authorize and direct the acting general manager to send a letter notifying 3 captains that the Harbor District is discontinuing the March 28, 2014 probationary agreement effective April 2nd, 2015. The leasee will have until July 2nd, 2015 to remove the hoist and apply for a location change, period. And authorize and direct the acting general manager to notify all 3 fish buyers in writing that future hoist installations and/or proposed hoist location changes will be brought to the Harbor Commission for consideration during regular Harbor Commission meetings prior to harbor master approval. Require that all necessary permits be obtained in advance of hoist installation. Require that copies of all permits be provided to the Harbor District General Manager for verification before final approval of installation. Did you got that? Okay, so where am I in the process? Am I asking for a second now? I can't remember.
Yeah, you just made a motion.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have anything else? Can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Abstain.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Parabano?
Abstain.
President Brennan?
Aye. Okay, boy. look at that. Next, we have item 6, which is athletic event permit for Ryan Colho. Thank you. And we have a memo from Ms. Harris.
We have another athletic event permit for the triathlon at right? Yeah, triathlon for Half Moon Bay, Subcon Valley Triathlon. It was held, there was another one held in Half Moon Bay on April 20th of 2014. And then Morgan Hill Triathlon was held as triathlon in Oyster Point Marina Park on May 18th in 2014. Mr. Coelho would like to have another triathlon on April 19th of 2015. He got his permit. He's had several meetings with the acting harbor master, Sean Draper, and they've both talked about the locations, and those are approved. Staff would have approved this probably, well, under normal procedure, we might have just approved it in the office, but because it is a big event, we brought it to the board. He has the maps attached of where they're going to be biking and swimming and running, and the location that they're going to be set up in the harbor that's been agreed to by the acting harbor master. We brought it before you because Mr. Coelho is asking for a fee waiver because he will be donating $2,500 to the Boys and Girls Club and donating 10% of the revenue plus $20 per volunteer to the Half Moon Bay Rotary Club. And so Mr. Coelho can speak here to see about it. Yep.
Nice to be here tonight. Interesting meeting. I'm Ryan Coyle, our race director and owner of USA Productions. It's been a pleasure working with your staff over the last 2 years. With the drought that's hit us, it's moved my events to the coast, as well as the bay, which is down in Oyster Point, which I've been putting on events for 24 years. USA Productions has been, in fact, for about 9 years now. I took over another business which was called J&A Productions.
I'm sorry, what was it?
J&A Productions.
Okay.
It was a long-standing production company. So my goal is to make the Half Moon Bay Triathlon, which we went from Silicon Valley Triathlon to the Half Moon Bay Triathlon, make this the home of it. I have approval from the city, I have approval from CHP, from Caltrans, from all of the jurisdictions to do this. Last year we had some hiccups. Of course, we crossed the highway on the run course, which was a learning experience not only for myself, but for the city of Half Moon Bay. And then through effective planning, having much more time to put forth on this, we decided to bring the run on the west side, along the coast side, and crossing the highway, which would, of course, alleviate a lot of the impact, and of course, not put it on Eastern. So, I think we found the right process in putting this together, as well as plan for making sure that it's safe, one of our biggest objectives. That it's safe, it's less impactful than it was last year. Ultimately, that's the second priority. And then third is that everybody's in the communication process. Right? So we're all sitting in a room together talking about how do we do this and do that if this comes up. Right? We have a mitigation plan if any medical procedures come up, or the fall rolls in, whatever it may be. We're all ready for those types of scenarios come race day.
Quick question. I'm excited about this. I wondered if Acting Harbor Master Draper has any questions or comments about this, because he's in charge of Pillar Point Harbor. So you guys talked and, oh great, okay, that's awesome. Good, all right, just wanted to ask that question. And then could you, I know that when we had, are you familiar with the Half Moon Bay International Marathon?
Marathon, yes.
So I know that there were issues with their route, and somehow they got routed out onto the highway, I think the last time they did the marathon. And so, I'm sorry, I'm not that knowledgeable about your triathlon, but so you guys had a similar Highway 1 type of route last time you did it? Is that?
No, so last year was a point-to-point. So we had done a different scenario where we had our swim and our T1, which we call our swim to bike, that occurred in the Pillar Point Harbor area. They biked down to the Johnston House, and then they conducted their run coming across Highway 1 and then up the coast and then back into the Johnston House. Right? So that all that occurred, that run portion, now crossing at a major intersection along Highway 1, which then just bottlenecked everything in both directions on the Forest Easter weekend. So, you know, we, of course, again, learning experience.
I'm remembering now.
From all, you know, all angles that, you know, even the city was like, we wouldn't have ever expected this. So, again, you know, going to your point is that, no, it's not anywhere near what the International Marathon has done. Yes, they do cross the highway a couple times, but they don't have, I think, they have a lot more spacing between their events because it is such a long distance, it's 26 plus miles, 26.2 miles in their run. So they probably have a lot more gaps when they are crossing the highway, so they now are completely past.
So you have a denser pack.
It's a denser pack because the run is only 6.2 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, so now you have a lot more people in a denser pack at one time. And again, then it was education. You have the police that have never conducted this type of special event, right? So they're learning as well as it's going along. So it was a combination of things that, of course, we can all resolve moving forward. So.
And so, how many, I'm just trying to visualize, how many people usually enter the triathlon?
Last year we had 700 to 800 participants. That's pretty standard for, you know, for my triathlons. I put on 8 years throughout the year. So, you know, I have a triathlon in Oakland where we have 1,500 people. So, you know, there's different scenarios, and it all just depends upon date and weather and so forth.
Any other questions?
I was just kind of curious, in requesting a fee waiver from the department, what does everybody pay that's going to get into this?
They pay for, there's two different distances. There's a super sprint, and they're paying $70 for entry. And then there's an Olympic distance, which is a longer swim bike run, and they're paying between 120 and 140.
Well, that's a good sum of money. Not thinking about the finances of the Harbor District, certainly be interested in seeing something for the Harbor District.
I have no problem paying it. I mean, as I had my event at Oyster Point last year, I mean, it's not a problem for me to pay it. I was just thinking that if I'm going to be giving money back to these two charities, you know, and again, I was just asking for the waiver, that if we see that money that would go to you, go to a charity, and I don't know if that would be, you know, in the eyes of yourselves.
So 800 people at $70?
800 people, let's take a median of about maybe 100 and 105.
Wow.
What
That's
is,
going to be $80,000.
You're correct.
Yeah, okay.
Approximately.
what
And
is
then-
the, oh, I'm sorry.
50 is on the very back, the fee for the, he's already paid the application.
20,
2,350.
oh,
I
is
thought it said
the,
it was asking for a waiver of that.
so that the waiver's for 2,350?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then the other thing is about, I'm sure you've answered this to Acting Harbor Master Draper's satisfaction, that during salmon season, you'll be cutting off the launch ramp for the recreational trailer boaters. And if John's okay with that, then I guess I will say that I'm okay.
That was one of the biggest things we talked about, was how do we control that?
Because I see also something in here about Half Moon Bay Yacht Club, and that's on the other side of the harbor altogether.
That's probably an older plan that you have in your hands. There was, originally that's where we had last year's swim. So the newer plan does not include the yacht club any longer.
So
That's what we had.
this is the newer?
That's the newer one,
Yeah,
yes.
so that's
Last
the
year
new
we had-
swim.
Last year we had our swim over at the yacht club. That's where the swim starts, and the finish was. So that actually is incorrect.
John, did you want to say anything?
You know, we talked about everything and how many people we're going to have down at the launch ramp to control traffic. And it's not a big group start, so it's...
Yeah. So we have a start, the way we started the triathlon to make sure that people are not in packs throughout the bike and the run, is we started a rate of 150. So there will be no more than 150 people in each row. Meaning that you're not going to have a swarm of people coming out of the water or going into the water at the same time.
I would have thought 150 was a lot of people to be swimming at one
But then
time.
they space out, right? So you have, there are age groups as well, so then they space out very well, and again, they're not on top of it.
Mr. Draper's fine with it. I'm gonna say that I'm fine with it.
Well, it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be a little chaotic for a little bit, but the traffic control, and there's many people there, and stop by as they go by, it's not very, it's, I think, first start is 8 o'clock.
No, the first start is at 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Hopefully, it's salmon season, most of the guys will be in the water by then, but
Put the word out. They need to get there early.
Utter chaos, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
well, we were gonna notify all, like, Coastside Fishing Club and
Let people know.
that this event was going on this day.
And if there are there any, Commissioner Bernardo, did you have any questions? Yes.
I have a comment. If this is approved, I would suggest that the fee that we're asked to waive be given to the Boys and Girls Club of the Coast Side in the name of the San Mateo County Harbor District. And I have worked with the Coast Side Boys and Girls Club in the past and on marine curriculum programs in developing a little more outreach for the kids. And I would, with the approval of my fellow commissioners, suggest that this donation be given for that program so that they have during the summertime, they have week-long workshops where they host children from the coast side and educate them on different marine and fishery issues. So if that, and they already have a program set up for that. So if they could dedicate that fee for that specific workshop, and I can give you the name of the instructor.
That would be
for
great.
That works for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you then like to make the motion since you have some specifics?
I think this is also saying $20 to the Rotary per person as well, or per volunteer, right?
So last year, just to give you an example, so from Boys and Girls Club, there was 40 people that volunteered, and we gave 20 back to Boys and Girls Club through that. There was also the Kiwanis that came out, $20 went back to each volunteer, that they had 20 plus. Then there was a swimming team that came out, and they had close to 50 people. Right? So a good chunk of change went back to them as well. So collaboratively, the community came together really nicely. And to your point, I mean, the $20 adds up really quickly and pays for the uniforms and other things that, you know, they can decorate programs throughout the year. So that's important.
I'm just reminded of questions that have come up around other events in the past. Is there a way, do you provide any transparency? Is there a way for the district to track that the money actually went to the charities? Or?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely, however you want to see it, is, and I'm sure that the Boys and Girls Club, you know, we had announced it, hoping that the review would put it into the paper, but it never made it. So those are things that we can definitely do that you can probably find on their website.
Great.
Specifically.
Okay. So do we have a motion, anyone?
I could make a motion that we approve the athletic event permit for USA Productions for April 19, 2015, and waive the fee in the amount of $2,350, and that this donation to the Boys and Girls Club be made on behalf of the San Mateo County Harbor District and be dedicated to their programs and workshops for marine-related programs and studies.
Second.
Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Aye. Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Parabana?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye.
As long as we're still on the harbor in muddy waters, I'd like to jump onto these boat
Oh,
wrecking procedures.
so let me introduce the item.
Okay.
So and maybe somebody
We
can
need to
help.
make a motion to put it on the agenda before you can discuss the item.
Okay, so we have, this is an emergency item, is that correct? We have two urgency items, and I need a motion to
Put both on.
can I get a motion to do both, or do I have to have two motions?
Two motions.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a motion on the front of you, so
Okay, motion. that there is a need to take immediate action regarding removal of the sunken vessel Brute from Pillar Point Harbor, Outer Harbor, and that the need for action come to the attention of the district subsequent to the agenda being posted and too late to meet the 72-hour posting requirement. Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravono?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. You want to read the second one?
I motion that there is a need to take immediate action regarding removal of the sunken vessel Can Do from Pillar Point Harbor, Dock C, and that the need for action came to the attention of the district subsequent to the agenda being posted and too late to meet the 72-hour posting requirement. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravono?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. Okay, so before we go to item
Wait,
7,
excuse me, you just voted to put
Put
these
it on
items on the
the
agenda, you have not yet considered the actions themselves.
oh, sorry, thank you for that point of clarification. Okay, so let's start with,
Can we do them
can we do them
together?
together? Yeah.
Sure, I have no objection. I mean, unless there's a board member who feels that they would like the opportunity to vote separately, I have no objection to doing it.
Does anyone want to do them separately, sorry?
I'd
Okay,
like to make a motion that we approve both these items together.
I'll second it.
Since there's nothing on the
Oh.
agenda, perhaps you could just explain what the action is that you are.
well, maybe Scott should do that.
Yeah, the proposed action under the one with the vote called Brute is the removal and demolition of that vessel for $28,750 to Bishop Diving and Salvage. And the vessel Can Do, it is broken shark diving and salvage to remove at $18,500. I'm sorry? Oh, yes, hold that telephone.
Any discussion? Can I get a motion?
I move that both of these items, whether we approve the funds to pay these as stated.
Second. Is that okay?
Roll call.
You're actually approving the award of contracts for the removal of these abandoned vessels. I
Yes.
believe you already have grant funding in
Yeah.
place.
Yes.
Yes. So we're just saying as written.
So the motion is to approve,
Taking immediate action to remove these two vessels.
okay, I'll let you say that.
Our motion is to take immediate action to authorize the acting general manager to have Bishop Diving and Salvage remove the vessel Brute from Pillar Point Harbor in the amount of $28,750. Grant funds are provided and allocated to San Mateo County Harbor District via the Abandoned Watercraft Abatement Fund for removal of this vessel. And at the same time, authorize the acting general manager to take immediate action to have the Broken Shark Diving and Salvage remove the vessel from Pillar Point Harbor in the amount of $18,500. Grant funds are provided and allocated to the San Mateo County Harbor District via the Abandoned Watercraft and Abatement Fund for the removal of the vessel Can Do.
Thank you, I appreciate your indulgence.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravono?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. So before we go on to item 7, I'd like to have a very short break, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. I want to call the meeting back to order. We are now officially on item 7, item 7, sorry. Review. Is parity of commissioner benefits, and we have a report from Ms. Harris.
I was asked to put this on the agenda, Harbor Commissioner Benefits Parity. And the recommendation determined. So the option one would be to make no changes to district policy. Under current policy, commissioners elected prior to 2014 may receive health insurance benefit or a cash payout in lieu of such benefits, so long as they are in office and may continue to do so if they are reelected. Option two is to change district policy such that upon commencement of any term of office, no commissioner will receive health insurance benefits or a cash payout in lieu of such benefits. The existing policy will continue in place with regard to commissioners presently in office, and any changes to the policy will apply upon commencement of a re-elected commissioner's new term of office. So the background, the Board of Harbor Commissioners asked to revisit the issue. The last changes that we made, we did in June of 2014, where we made the initial change to the policy that the board chose to discontinue benefits for newly elected commissioners, but maintain the current benefits for sitting commissioners for as long as they remained in office, and that change was made in June of 2014. And the two memos that were done before are attached, and as well as the current and past.
I believe you have a speaker card.
Here.
Okay. Is that?
I think that's it.
That's it?
See the current memo, current policy. The red line one is in there, we'll be together, I guess the current one.
Okay. So now I would like to have public comment on item 7, and we have one speaker slip for this item, and that is Brian Rogers.
Yeah, I know I've talked in the past on how I'm not a big fan of the fact that the commissioners get a benefit like that. I think it's an expense that's not warranted by the position. But in your own report, you're saying you can't really make this change, that they legally have a right to it. The legal team, what I'm informed of in the past is that the legal teams that you've asked have all told you that they have the right to it once they were elected with it. You can't take it away until they're out of office. So, you know, this is the second time this has come up in just over a year. And I think it's again, a big waste of the public's time, the staff's time to revisit something that you've been told that you can't make a change to it. You know, we're talking about a $30,000 a year benefit that, you know, you're arguing over, and you're not going back and dealing with real issues. You know, the fingers at Pillar Point still haven't been replaced. You know, that was something you approved last year, and you're not making progress on things that matter, in my opinion. So you know, keep going around on these wasted times, but they're not getting anything done.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
Well, like a little discussion first. I brought this up to come back to the district so that we could get some clarity here. We come on this board and we hear certain things by word of mouth. We don't have an operating manual or anything that's current. So the one thing I wanted to see put to rest forever is this thing about the commissioners getting health care benefits. So what this is set out to do is to stop that process. And what we can't do is stop it during the year that somebody's enrolled. And now upon council viewing, or maybe it's Marietta's thing, we can't cut it out during the term. However, what this is saying is upon re-election, moving forward, no commissioners will be eligible for this benefit going forward. Right now, there's only one that gets it.
Well, one gets the health care benefits and one gets the payout.
Yeah, the one gets the number that over the 18 years would be about $450,000, and the other is, well, okay, that's not much. What we're trying to do is say, let's put this to bed so that it doesn't happen anymore, the public doesn't keep talking about it, and we finally finalize this so that nobody's getting benefits going forward, and that's going to be a $24,000 savings on one person, $6,000 to the other, to the district. The one thing that this option was missing in a sentence that I wrote is, it's my understanding, and I don't have all the policy here, that the harbor commissioners currently have the option to participate in the healthcare benefits through either of the harbor district health plans or by a plan of their own choosing, but that wouldn't affect the harbor. So this recommendation would make all harbor commissioners equal by giving all the option to purchase through the harbor district exchange. The harbor district will no longer pay for harbor commissioner healthcare benefits. So I can't say that I can support one or two. I can support two if it is true that we could still have the option to buy in on our own. Is that true or not?
I guess it's true.
I don't know if you're wrong to me. I do not administer the district's
Yeah.
health plan. I don't know whether,
I can check with
I
the,
don't know who's allowed to purchase and pay for and be included in the plan.
So this is one of those word of mouth things we're trying to clarify.
So,
I have a
I
question.
mean, I'm sure Teamsters and OE3 don't care who pays for it, as long as they're getting paid.
I would imagine.
But I'm thinking you could probably get in the room.
So this is just one of those word of mouth things. So how do we clean this up?
Well, it sounds like what you want to do is you want to amend the option 2 as a motion. Is that,
You want to
Yes.
change the district policy that such upon commencement of any term of office, no commissioner will receive health insurance benefits or a cash payout in lieu of such benefits.
However, commissioners have the option to purchase through
district.
either of the
Yeah.
group
Yeah.
healthcare plans.
Do we know that in fact that is an option?
No, but we can find out.
I
too.
think
Should
it
we-
was
if-
definitely an option with the last presentation.
Yeah,
it was an option.
Previous.
Commissioners have an option
It's been a while since
to purchase.
Commissioner Matucci, I assume that when you say that they have the option to purchase insurance, you mean and to pay whatever premium the district pays?
Yes, at the group rates, but out of our own pockets, should we so choose.
So how would he say that? However, commissioners have the option to purchase healthcare through either healthcare plan,
To purchase at their own expense.
purchase at their own expense. So the way that comes out, let me make sure I got that right, I'm trying to help. However, commissioners have the option to purchase at their own expense healthcare through either healthcare plan. That doesn't sound, that's not maybe worded as nicely as it could be, but
I really defer to Ms. Harris because I just
Just
am
to
not
purchase
really
at their, however,
informed about the
commissioners
healthcare plan.
have the option to purchase at their own expense through the healthcare,
Harbor District Healthcare Exchange.
Harbor Trust Funds, Harbor District. Trust funds that are available through the Harbor District, let's do that. Trust funds that are available through the Harbor District.
I don't know if we're talking about trust, are you talking
It's
about?
called a trust fund.
Okay.
Operating Engineers Trust Fund, Teamsters Trust Fund, it's called a trust fund.
do you want me to help by reading that back, Debbie, or did you get that?
I think Mariana got it, so between the two of us, I think I have it.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to read it back one last time?
So we are back to option 2, change district policy such that upon commencement of any term of office, no commissioner will receive health insurance benefits or a cash payout in lieu of such benefits. We should probably, okay. The existing policy will continue in place with regard to commissioners presently in office, and any changes to the policy will apply upon commencement of a re-elected commissioner's new term of office. However, commissioners have the option to purchase at their own expense through the trust funds the health insurance available to the Harbor District.
Through the trust funds that are available through the Harbor District?
Yeah.
Is that, okay, that are available through the Harbor District?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so,
We'll add if applicable, how's that? That way, if the trust fund tells me to go pound sand, then it won't be, that portion of it won't be in effect.
through the Harbor District, if applicable.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody have any, you've heard the motion, does anybody, I guess you need a second, right, before we can discuss it?
Whose motion is it?
Mine.
Tom's motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second
Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, I would just like to make sure that this is reviewed by our attorney.
So we review the memo.
But the new language.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little at a loss because I don't know, and I don't have any information about the trust fund or what our obligations are to the union, or whether this idea of authorizing the purchase is permissible. I just don't know. But nothing will, we have 2 years to find out.
Well, actually, then we could just drop the part about the option to purchase at our own rate and just say,
But you said if applicable,
Yeah.
and that covers it, because it's if applicable. If it's not applicable, then that part wouldn't stand.
Yes, sir.
After Commissioner Parvano.
Commissioner Parvano, are you done?
Yeah, again, I would like, make sure that the attorney reviews it. To me, there's a couple of stickler words in there that the placement of them kind of might negate the intention of what Commissioner Mateusz is trying to achieve.
Did you want to be more specific?
It's what is said in the first sentence, and then the sentence that begins with however.
Oh, okay.
That's, I think those sentences might negate each other.
Let's reread
I
it.
mean, change district policy such that upon commencement of any term of office, no commissioner will receive health insurance benefit or a cash payout in lieu of such benefits.
However.
Yeah, however. It's the however that.
Is that?
I mean, I think, didn't Ms. Harris read the however sentence?
You don't, is that where you want the however?
No, it's the however.
Sentence that
It's the however sentence that.
so just scratch the
current
however.
policy reads, the San Mateo County Harbor District offers all regular full-time employees and harbor commissioners and all eligible dependents group health and medical insurance coverage, medical insurance.
The however would clean it up. I mean, removing the however.
Oh, so you want to just remove however?
Well,
and
it's
say
Commissioner
commissioners
Mateusz's
have
motion.
the option. Okay, so commissioners have the option to purchase at their own expense through the trust funds that are health.
That are available.
Now, see, that's.
Purchase at their own expense health insurance through trust funds that are available to the Harbor District. Is that still not?
If applicable, you had.
If applicable.
Would it be helpful to put this over and direct staff to find out what exactly is applicable? I feel bad that I don't know the answer to the question. I just don't know the details of the question.
I wasn't told to put that as an option, or I would look more into it.
Well, here's a question. If we went ahead with option 2 as stated and didn't add anything to it, could we add this second bit at a later date that we would then continue with option 2 would still stand, but we would also, in addition to that, allow, if it turns out to be applicable.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it is, because when someone's on a leave of absence, they have an option of paying for their own health care coverage.
Okay.
And it's just a matter, this is the health care coverage that we offer and that we pay for, and if someone were on leave, they could pay for it themselves. So there's not any difference about who pays for it. It doesn't really matter who pays for it. It's just that if you're eligible to have the health care coverage,
I think that's a union.
whoever pays for it.
That's a union issue.
Yeah, this
We're not union.
No, I know, but this is also saying that harbor commissioners and all dependents are eligible to offer it.
So we get the same,
Yeah.
yeah. And I know that other special districts, there are some that do this, and they allow their board members the benefits if they want them. Frankly, I can't imagine why anybody would want them, because they're so expensive that no person that had to pay out of pocket would probably opt for those benefits. But I think it's nice to allow that option if, in case for some reason somebody did want to go there. So,
You can just take 2 as it is and then somewhere along the way. Let me know.
I'm comfortable with 2 as amended, but it's not my motion, so I'll leave it up to Commissioner Mateusz if he wants to change it.
Well, for the sake of clarity, I think it'd be easier to just adopt 2, and I'll give Ms. Harris something to look at her last day in office. Come up with a recommendation if we want to add something on.
So I have a motion and a second. Can Nicole withdraw her second?
Can I withdraw?
The motion before had this however sentence.
Oh, okay.
And now we're taking
My
that.
second.
Okay, so she
and then
withdraws.
You're gonna restate.
So I'm going to restate the motion to read as option 2 here.
Okay, second.
Can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Bernard?
I'm sorry, I had my hand up, I wanted to say
sorry.
something.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, after Commissioner Paravana. I just wanted to say, I myself, I'm going to not support this because if you look at the report, I do not receive a single cent of any of these benefits because I get them through my current employer. I've been in the public sector all my life. Upon college, I've worked in the public sector, I've worked in many public agencies, and it's standard practice for public employees to receive benefits. And so, to me, the Harbor District isn't doing anything unusual that other public agencies or special districts wouldn't offer their employees or commissioners. So that's why for me, I myself do not see any need to change the policy. So that's where I stand, because I think this does bring up a broader issue of just, the whole 2-tier system and how things are changing and how things are being rolled back. And I myself just, while again, it's not going to affect me because I don't receive a single cent and I will not receive a single cent, I do not, if I did need it someday, which not, but if I did need it someday, I would like to think that my fellow commissioners would be more compassionate and support it. That's why I'm not going to support any changes, because I would like my fellow commissioners to have the benefits that are existing right now. That's where I'm going to vote. Thank you.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
When we voted previously for the current board members to have the benefits, but not the future board members, and now we have 2 future board members as current board members, that disallowed them from receiving the benefits. And I can't remember, I know how I voted, I know I voted no on that, and I don't remember how you voted on that, but I'm just curious, is this consistent with your vote then?
Well, again, I just want to say that I think that all of the commissioners should have the opportunity. So I would support it. I would support any changes where all the commissioners would be allowed to receive these benefits.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because
Yes.
that wasn't clear.
Okay.
So thank you.
Okay, and I'm done with my questions. Thank you.
A quick comment?
Yeah.
I know there have been studies or comparisons between districts and boards in San Mateo County and in the Greater Bay Area, and the Harbor District has always been pretty much in the top 10, and these are huge expenses for the taxpayers. So I think the district just needs to be more in line with the benefits that other elected officials receive.
Any other comments? Okay. Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bernardo?
No.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano?
No.
President Brennan?
Aye. Next, we have item 9.
8.
Oh, sorry, item 8, I've been off with this all night. Review and revisit RFP process for legal services with a report by Commissioner Paravano.
Thank you. I'm referring to an item that was on the January 21st Harbor meeting, where the agenda item issued an RFP, request for proposal for legal services for the Harbor District. And I asked that this be put on this agenda for this evening for my fellow commissioners to review and revisit the need for this request for proposals for legal services. For a little bit of background for the public, Hanson Bridge has been representing the Harbor District since beginning of July of 2014. And since that time, I have noticed a tremendous amount of professionalism, a tremendous amount of outreach, and a tremendous amount of communication that specifically Mr. Stephen Miller has provided for all members of the Harbor District, from the commissioners, staff, and seeing how successful this has been for all of us, and also in light of the changes that the Harbor District is undergoing and will be undergoing in terms of the LAFCO process, in light of the response to the civil grand jury report that was issued last July. I would like to have the commission withdraw this request for proposal process and ask that the commission stay with Hanson Bridget due to offering a stability and continuity in the legal services that Hanson Bridget has provided the Harbor District in the last, 8 months or so. So I would ask my fellow commissioners to consider a motion that we withdraw the request for proposals for legal services at this time. And I'd like to make a motion to that effect.
I'd like to second that.
Any comments or questions, discussion? Commissioner Bernardo?
You can handle it first.
I thought this request for proposal went out and that we actually have reached the deadline for receiving proposals already?
The deadline is Monday.
Oh.
We've received some proposals.
RFPs can be canceled at any time.
I'm sorry, Friday, March 6th.
Yes, Friday, Thursday. So public agencies cancel regularly.
Okay. And then.
Just so you know.
Thanks, yeah. And I wanted to say that for me, the request for proposals does not it gives us an opportunity to compare or look at options, but it does not necessarily mean we have to make a decision. And I think if we looked at the proposals, there would be a decision by the board at a later point anyway that we would have to go through with to make changes to the current contracts.
Commissioner Bernardo, you next.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of things. I seconded this motion because I want to explain that I feel that right now there is just so much change going on here at the Harbor District, and while change is good for the most part, it's just too much. I mean, prior to Mr. Miller, bless you, prior to Mr. Miller, the previous council was with us for how many years, Ms. Harris? Do you know?
About 25.
About 25 years. Talk about consistency and institutional history, okay? And, we've had to ramp up with Mr. Miller. I think he's done a phenomenal job during the kind of tumultuous, civil grand jury inquiries that during that time of change, to have to go through that and through all of the change that's happening right now. I just think that this is really bad timing, so that's why I'm not supporting this at all. I'm not ruling out any future, maybe way down the line, but right now, losing institutional history and having to ramp up with a potential new Council, I just don't think that's right for this district right now.
Okay. Any additional comments?
Well, when we have these RFPs back, there's nothing that says we have to change. We can accept it as it is.
Has the district received any proposals?
Choose so far.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind looking at them and not stopping the process, but I also agree with Commissioner Bernardo that in this transitional time where we go through a lot of changes, that it probably would not be wise to make more changes to the board.
Okay. Any others? So I agree with Commissioner Bernardo and Commissioner David that given all the transition that the district's experiencing right now, this is not optimal time to change council. And I think our current council is doing fine for us at the moment. So I don't see any reason to change right this minute, but I think that information is always helpful. And when we hired our current council, there were 3 various firms that we interviewed, and we saw hourly rates from $3.45 an hour down to about $200 an hour. The mid rate was, if I remember correctly, I think it was $270 an hour. The board voted to go with the most expensive firm, which is $3.45 an hour. Now, sometimes it's worth going with the most expensive firm. So, you know, it could be that that's the case. We haven't reviewed any proposals, so we don't know what our options are right now, except what we're currently, what we currently have. What we do know, though, is that our legal fees have tripled over the last year. Our last, I forget, last month's bill was $19,000 just from Hanson Bridget. And, you know, that can happen. It's no poor reflection on their firm. But I think as board members, we need to watch the money, and we need to always keep an eye out for the best interest of the district and reducing costs wherever possible. But also keep in mind that the level of service needs to be high. And so while at this time, I agree, you know, this isn't the right time to it's probably not the right time to transition if we are going to transition, and that's a big question mark. But I see absolutely no problem with receiving proposals, which we already put out an RFP for, and the board already voted and approved putting out an RFP. And what this seems to be is, you know, an attempt to turn back the clock and to undo a recent board decision when firms have already gone through the trouble of putting together proposals that this district voted to request. So I don't think it's fair to now, you know, a couple days before the deadline when proposals have already come in, suddenly decide that we're not going to look at the proposals. I think that accepting proposals doesn't mean accepting a change. Those proposals could be put on a shelf and collect dust. They haven't taken any staff time, or okay, I shouldn't say that. They haven't taken a lot of staff time to collect, and the board could choose to look at them now or look at them later, whatever makes sense. But I don't think this motion makes any sense, and for that reason, I'm not going to vote to support it. Any other comments? Okay. Was there a second? Oh yeah, there was a second. Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
No.
Commissioner Matoush?
No.
Commissioner Paravano?
Aye.
President Brennan?
No. Okay, next we have item 9, which is an oral report by Commissioner David.
So I'll start here, introduce this item real quick. The search committee had developed a process for hiring an interim general manager because the board has the responsibility to act and to address staffing concerns. And the entire board agreed to that process. And we did have a couple of very qualified candidates lined up for an interview with the board. But today, unfortunately, the second candidate also dropped out because the process was not completely followed, so we do not have a contract to award. And I think Brent wants to give a little bit more detail on that.
Thank you. On February 4th, as you all know, I was directed to bring back by tonight a contract after the due process of the committee.
I just have a quick question. I'm a little concerned we're talking about closed session items and we had that raised earlier as a problem. Are we getting into a gray area here?
Could be, I'm not sure what Mr. Ives is about.
Okay, I just want to
say.
caution you about not talking about things that were discussed in closed session.
Well, I think perhaps if you focus on the item at issue here, which is the award of a contract to Regional Government Services for interim management services, is that
I'm
helpful?
outlining how I was directed to do so.
But you were directed in closed session, right?
The fact remains, then where is the genesis of the contract that sits,
Right,
or
to
the
authorize
proposal of the
award
contract
of
for you?
contract to Regional Government Services for interim management services. That's what's on the title of that, so.
Not the reason why I was asked to do that, only that the fact that I was asked to use a process with a committee to identify candidates and eventually, by tonight, get a contract to you for an interim general manager. We did indeed meet that intention. However, this afternoon, the candidate dropped out of the process for a number of different reasons. The fact is, at this point in time, is we do not have a contract in front of you. The process at this point has been, again, directed in session tonight to continue that process, and the details could be a point of question or just, that's my report as of right now. I apologize that we don't have a successful contract before you. I certainly wish that were the case, but the fact is we don't.
Can you explain briefly why the candidate dropped out?
The candidate dropped out today after having experienced what he called a lot of pressure from his agency. His agency was Regional Government Services. Regional Government Services was contacted by a commissioner and was told that that there were issues with the candidate, and the agency called the candidate. The candidate felt like that was probably the beginning of a relationship that he wasn't going to feel comfortable with, and so he pulled out today.
I'm sorry, did I hear you correct? Contacted by a harbor commissioner?
Yes. RGS was.
And RGS was contacted by more than one commissioner, just to be clear.
And I think just to be clear, there's only 2 commissioners on the search committee, isn't there?
Right, correct.
Yeah.
So can you explain to us what the process is going to look like going forward?
That perhaps is beyond the scope. If I started interrupting, the item here is just to authorize award of a contract, and your discussion with your recruiter may be more appropriate for another session.
So could we discuss that in open session at a future meeting?
You are welcome to discuss anything you want in open session.
Okay.
That isn't a topic that might ordinarily, depending on circumstances, could be eligible for a closed session, but there's no rule that says you can't do anything in open session.
I would like to say, however, my guidance at this point is to continue the process that we started on February 4th.
Just a question. What will prevent a commissioner from contacting them again? I mean, then we'll have another problem again. I mean, how do we get this process moving in a smooth fashion where we're not having bumps like this bump here?
Again, that's not what, that's a good, I can understand your concern. That's not certainly within the scope of this particular discussion relative to the contract. And there is going to be opinion on how candidates match the needs of the district. And it's highly unusual for, and I believe not appropriate for an individual commissioner to take that tack. And I would hope that while I can't certainly find the perfect candidate for you, as it is, I can tell you that the candidate pool is rather slim. I am doing my best to bring forward candidates that I know are qualified and know can help the district with this, with your current staffing.
Right, Brent, I'm not questioning you. It's more of the process, and maybe I'm not going to put the recruitment committee, on the spot here, but it's a theoretical question. Just how do we make this process not have hiccups like this? Because I think this will just extend this process beyond infinity. I mean, if this happens again, that's all. It's just a rhetorical. I'm looking for an answer.
Rhetorical is good.
Thank you. I thought you'd like
that. Had we anticipated this, we would have agendized it in a different way and been able to broaden it.
I'm sorry, it's not a criticism against you.
No, I understand. I'm not taking that.
I'm going to shut up now. Thank you.
And maybe just to shed a little bit of light on the process that, so we're working with an agency, I don't know, what kind of, what RGS, how would you describe?
Well, it's an agency that brokers administrative assistance to public agencies,
Right.
similar to Managing Partners and a few others. And those are just some of the options. They're not the only option.
I just want to explain that it took, once we focused on a candidate, and we did that twice in the process, legal counsel worked with the agency to develop the contract, which takes about over a week. There's a lot of time that goes into it, and we've lost that time twice now, and we have to just be aware that, this doesn't happen fast. Like, we've really tried to work hard on this to make this happen, and
what was the pool of candidates? How many candidates did you evaluate?
I talked.
Excuse me. Yeah, I think the board should vote to, if they really want to have this conversation in public, the full board should be allowed to vote to do that, because we're getting into some territory here that makes me a little uncomfortable in terms of disclosure of closed session communication. So unless there's, I would again just caution and urge you to focus on the item, which is the award of the contract to RGS. It sounds like there is no contract to award, and that there's not an action that needs.
Well, there's a contract. I have a copy of the contract, so can I ask questions about the contract? Because we will be looking at the similar process going
But you
forward.
negotiated with that person for that contract.
But it's the contract with RGS, not with a person.
It's with RGS, but I'm sure that person had input, so it wouldn't make any sense to have a discussion about that contract that's specific to that person. I don't think. I could be wrong.
It's a contract with RGS. Do we have a public comment? I'm sorry, you're raising your hand.
Yeah.
We missed you, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay, well, why don't you come on up, Brian Rogers?
Well, hopefully this will make, some of this make a little bit of sense. I understand that you guys are limited in what you can do by closed session issues. But this is making absolutely no sense to any of us. We can't tell whether you're hiring a firm to manage. I'm trying to figure out whether this has something to do with the comment from the president last meeting that said we have a new general manager by this month, or acting general manager this month. Are we awarding an extension to Mr. Ives' contract? I mean, in the past, I've worked with recruiting companies, and we never gave him a dime until they found somebody for us. So did we give him $39,000, and now he's asking for more money? I got no idea what you guys are discussing. This is not a clear statement of what this is about. You guys are all over the board. And, I mean, I was trying to take notes because I had no idea there was no actual report. I mean, at some point, we might as well just dissolve this thing and hire Alamar to manage the marinas. They do it in 5 other marinas in the bay. If you guys can't, make a decision and find somebody to do this work, I know it's a little bit rambling, but, this whole discussion has been totally rambling. So hopefully you guys can make this make a little bit of sense to the public.
Thank you. So to follow up, I think that the way that this was agendized and disclosed or not disclosed to the public lacks transparency and is confusing. And if I were sitting out in the audience, I don't think I would know what the heck was going on. So I'm concerned about the way that we're approaching this. And I think we need to get our act together a little bit differently going forward. This is just my opinion, because I think we're not including the public in this process and informing the public about what is happening with staffing with the district. And we're trying to have this discussion, and there's just a whole lot of information that's being left out that's relevant, and I'm not comfortable with it. So I just want to state that. So if this was just an informational report, is there any other comments, discussion? And I apologize to the public for this being so confusing. I wish that it wasn't. I guess we'll just go on to item 9.
10.
Or 10. Thank you. Our numbering is mixed up because there was an agenda item dropped from the agenda, so sorry I keep getting the numbers wrong. So we are on to quarterly investment report, report from Deborah Galarza, and I believe it will be presented by, is it Marietta Harris or Scott Grundy? I'm not sure.
Basically, you have the report. This is, we'll take any questions, and if there's anything we need to take back to the finance director.
Does anybody have any questions about the report?
I do.
Yes.
Where is the, I'm sorry, I can't find it. Which is the item here that says how much we have left to pay the Department of Building and Waterways? What is that?
Oh, the money that's set aside for the Department of Building and
Yes.
Waterways is the San Mateo County Investment Pool Restricted. It's $1.781 million. So that's, no, I mean, what we have set aside is the final payment. I don't think on this report is the debt.
Okay.
So the debt is like 5.9, I think?
5.9.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
To pick up on Commissioner Bernardo's point, he just reminded me that there was a Daily Journal article that was published, I believe it was on Monday, if I remember correctly, and I was interviewed for that article. I was not asked by the reporter about the Harbor District's debt to the Department of Boating and Waterways at all, but there was information in the article which misstated the amount of money that the district still owes. So I would like to clarify, and I think Commissioner Bernardo just did a good job of pointing out what the actual debt is. And I believe that Deborah Galarza contacted the Daily Journal so that going forward, they have more accurate information. And I hope that the Daily Journal will see her as a point of reference. And so if they are going to continue to quote our financials, they could hopefully in the future go right direct to her.
Thank you. And not inflate our debt. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Do we need to approve this?
Yes.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Discussion, just asking, as I'm still new to this,
But
what?
we're on 10.
No, we're on
That's next.
11. So, hue and cry?
We're not on that one
okay.
yet. We're on 10. Well, that's next. So we had a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Aye. Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. Okay, now we're on item 11, which is bills and claims in the amount of $147,990.11. And the report is in front of us. Does anybody have any questions? And I think Commissioner Matoush does.
I was just going to ask, what is hue and cry, Zapantis, and is Marine Lean Cell Service a company?
Which
Zapatis is our mechanic that we use on the patrol boat.
Zapantis is?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, hue and cry is kind of the backup or emergency panic in our office. Our person is left alone in there at times, and it's another panic update, basically for our personnel at the harbor office.
Like a robbery alarm in a bank.
Okay. Was there one other?
Yeah, it is called Marine Lean Cell Service, because this is the name of the agencies. This is whom the check was written to. The name of the agency is Marine Lean Cell Service.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve?
We have another.
Sorry, just real quick question. Please remind me again, what are the seminars in professional development that 1, 2, 3 commissioners have? Is that the conference?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
to clarify further for the public, 3 board members went to the California Special Districts Association Leadership
Academy.
Training
Yeah.
Academy, and it was a 3-day training, pretty intense, 3 days. And we are members of the California Special District Association, our district is, so we receive discounts for the training. And this type of training was recommended by the civil grand jury. And since then, I'll just expand a little bit, there was an additional training, which was a webinar, which I believe 3 of the commissioners also did a finance webinar. That was last week. Is it this week? It's all about.
26th.
Yeah,
Last Thursday.
last Thursday. So that's, training. And so you'll see that coming up too, if it hasn't already been on the report and I haven't noticed. I have a comment. Is there any other before we? Commissioner Paravano, I see you looking really hard at that. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay. So I just wanted to comment that the amount for me, $665.02, I believe is not correct, and I need to submit a updated or a corrected expense report, because there was a mistake on my expense report. I don't think that's been fixed yet. I've been really busy, and I just haven't had time to do it. So I believe that amount is not correct. And I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. It's not very off, but I think it's slightly not correct. So that's the only correction I have on this, and I don't have any further questions. Okay, so Does anyone want to make a motion to approve item 11?
Just a point of clarification here. Can we approve it without those adjustments?
Yeah,
Can we
because
just mention, is that possible?
this is a higher amount, so that's fine.
Okay.
And you're gonna turn
Okay,
something for
okay.
lower, right?
So it'll go down, okay, okay.
So are we approving this bills and claims minus
Well,
that?
we can always pay less than what's on the sheet. We just can't pay more than what's on the sheet. So when we make the adjustment, we're gonna be making it down, so it'll be fine.
But it won't show, how will that show up in the bills and claims?
It won't, because
It won't.
So I would recommend a remove.
You wanna remove it
Yeah.
and then.
that's fine. We could remove that item.
So I can make a motion that we approve the bills and claims for the period ending March 4th, 2015, in the amount of $147,990.11 minus the entry of $665.02.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carvalho?
Aye.
President Brennan?
No. We have item 12, which is Acting General Manager Scott Grundy's report to the board.
Commissioner Brennan? I'm sorry, point of order, it's 9:25. I don't know if you want to extend the meeting or just go until 9:30 and.
Okay.
Motion to extend the meeting.
How
I'd say give through this in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So till 10 to 10.
Well, let's do half hour to make sure.
It's
Yeah.
10 to 10 p.m.
Second.
All right.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Carvalho? President Brennan?
Aye. Okay, back to,
On my report.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Just so that you see it on the back page, one of the things that was discussed in the past meeting is to put future agenda items as a log, kind of what we still have outstanding. Some may take longer to put together yet, or coordination to put together, but we want to make sure that the board is reminded of what items are on our list already. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. And also some good news, just to continue that, as far as the ferry service at Oyster Point, ridership is continuing to go up, and they haven't received their new boat. I think they placed the orders, but they haven't, they won't be ready to receive for at least a year, but they're larger, higher passenger vessels. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just comment on that real quick? Just for additional information to the public, ridership in that route for South San Francisco is up 50%.
oh,
Okay, so just, it's doing quite well.
so you take the ferry, who is on the ferry?
Well, the ridership boom is mostly coming from the biotech firms that are going to South San Francisco. And that's what's really propelling the ridership.
So it's people coming from the East Bay
That's right.
going to work?
That's right.
Wow. Huh. So you still have a pretty vacant ride on your direction, or?
Yeah, it's kind of lonely sometimes, but we're doing our best to get the word out.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm not the only one who lives here and works in the East Bay.
And then also to mention that in linking to that conversation of the ferry service, I've been working with the City of South San Francisco, the grant they received from Genentech for a new public restroom. And with that, location is still being worked on, but it'll be somewhere near the ferry terminal. Obviously, it'll be a public restroom, but what's nice is it'll also have a small service roll-up window for like a snack bar, coffee shop type takeout. So what that'll do is also with all this ridership of people coming and waiting, et cetera, or coming off the boat, there'll be something of another revenue source for the district to have that happen at the same time.
So just so I can visualize it, it's a restroom and then there's a snack bar.
Kind of a roll-up, yeah, like it's a precast concrete building, basically a big box, and then on one end of the building we'll have like a stainless roll-up door. so that it'll have a counter with a roll-up.
And
So
how
that-
big is the space for the concessionaire?
It's gonna, you know, half of a Starbucks counter, you know, we're not talking very big,
Yeah.
probably from here to there.
But somebody can walk up and get a cup of tea?
Yeah, donuts, coffee, whatever, but it's something so that at least there's some snack, like a snack bar. And at least with all the trail walkers, the weekend kayakers, the dragon boats, everything else is starting to happen over there. This has a really good potential for somebody to start a new little business in. And we're hoping that the restaurant will be done before the end of the year.
So will this, like, will the district put this out as an available space to rent, or how will
Correct.
this be?
Like an RFP type.
An RFP will go out?
Yeah, once we get it, you know, it all finalized and stuff, there's gonna be some documents probably bouncing back and forth from the city and us once we get closer to where it goes on the site and who covers the utilities and things of that nature. But, you know, the beauty of this is that the grant's paying for the building, and, you know, that's the major cost.
And that reminds me, could we get, is there anything new to report on the building that was near the pier, the bait shop? Is there any news there? Is it in any shape to rent out, or does it need major renovation?
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of something else, hold on.
The
bait shop
concessionaire
itself.
thing
Yeah,
reminded
the
me.
bait shop.
Yeah.
The bait shop itself. Right now, we're working with our attorney's firm to get a new lease going, and then we'll use that as our first prototype for that, as an RFP, using the new lease format. And that would be for that facility specifically to start out. And the building itself, you know, whoever takes it on is gonna have to do some elbow grease polishing and a few things of that sort, but, you know, it's a usable space. And it's getting a lot more head count there, so it has potential for more revenue for us too.
Now, if someone wanted to present an option to replace it with a different structure, would that be something that the district could
I don't
also?
think the district would have a problem with that, but my biggest fear, I hate to say fear, but maybe, you know, concern, is that when you start changing facilities, such as that, all of a sudden it triggers ADA concerns. If the building was built 10 years ago and all of a sudden has new stairway, ramps, etc. You know, we ran into that in that restroom last year over in that side, where all of a sudden just the ADA changes for code changed, and all of a sudden the ramp elevation was not the same ADA legal angle, you know, 3-4 years later. So, you know, if they want to change it, then it's going to be on their dime. But we want to make sure that we are solid so that we're getting revenue right away, rent, and then, you know, our percentage and stuff. But it sure could have, it's a big modular territory, what it is.
I've been in there, I just
Yeah.
haven't been in lately.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the prettiest thing right now, but it could be easily cleaned up.
Okay, all right. I have a few other questions about this report, but does any other commissioner have questions first?
Quick question.
Yes.
Scott, I know that John Draper was working on an environmental procurement policy, and that was supposed to come in front of the board for approval, so I didn't see that on the list and just wanted to make sure, because I know it was essential for you for grant writing, to have that in place.
Well, unfortunately, with the grant date passed, so we have time to work on that for next year's grant.
Alright, okay, so it's not urgent anymore.
No, it's not urgent.
Alright, thanks.
Okay. How much time do we have left? I don't want to.
Half an hour.
Okay. So I'm wondering, sorry, it's taking me a second to get my thoughts together. If you could give us a little bit more detail than we already got on the meeting with the consultant hired by LAFCO to do the municipal service review. And
Sure. You know, I guess the best way to describe it is, we were provided a list, I don't know, about a week earlier than the meeting, of items that we would need to pull together and items that they already found, whether it be our website or other. Staff pulled much of that together, and staff are still pulling some of it together just because some of it may be documents that are in print and have to be dug out of a banker box somewhere. But for the most part, you know, a good portion of it's already been turned over. And it's just, you know, it seems to be a lot more data than anything else.
Was there an expectation that there would be additional requests, or is this sort of it?
I don't think we heard of any additional requests at this time.
Okay.
You know, there might be, but, you know, depends on the consultant.
Okay, thanks for that update. And then the last question I had is there any update on the refund on the firewall? Or are we waiting to hear back on that?
We should be waiting to hear that. There should be like a check coming back at some point.
Okay.
I think they said it would take a few weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the update. So next, I'm going to move to item 13, which is the finance director's report. And who is going to give that report?
You have the report, I'll take any questions. You can also feel free to ask the questions, because Deborah does take an opportunity, she tries to take an opportunity during the week to review the tape from the meeting. So if there's any questions that she feels that she can answer, she'll let us know and send a note to all the commissioners with the answer, and we can also make that available to the public. So, you know.
Could we get a schedule for the budget process so that we have I think.
In your January 21st.
Maybe, yeah, maybe we could just keep including it in the packets until we get through the budget so that we have it, you know, when we're looking at, or that might be helpful. I'm sorry, does anybody have any other questions? Okay.
Go ahead, or send it to me.
We have item 14, which is report from our human resource manager. This is her final report.
Okay, I do have, well, let's see. I believe someone earlier mentioned, and they may not even be in the audience anymore, that the public wanted to be included in the general manager search, but I believe there's a survey on the website. So if anybody knows of anybody that's interested in taking that survey, it is available on the website. At least that's what I was told.
I haven't seen it. Where do we?
You can find it on the mobile.
Survey on the website.
Our website is.
I also wanted to say that, I guess we have one more meeting that Mr. White will be at. It may be. Mr. White is retiring on March 20th. I think he's mad at me because I'm getting out before he is, but.
Talk to you tomorrow about that.
Okay, so it's been great working with everybody here at the Harbor District. There's a wonderful group of people that work here, and it's no accident that they've all been here for a very long time. They enjoy working here. They work really hard. They do a great service for the Harbor District, and it's been an honor to work with them and for them, because I consider myself having worked for them. And I know they're going to keep up the good work and do all the Harbor Commission proud. So thank you for the opportunity to say that. And I know there's a question about, hopefully we can put this firewall issue back on somehow, because it is, I don't know where the process is for the moving. I don't know if we're going to still be doing that, but it's going to leave Oyster Point in a quagmire, because we needed that to finish the process of letting them stand alone by themselves if the district office is no longer going to be where it is. So I'll have discussions with staff hopefully tomorrow and try to figure out what we're going to do from there. But we do need that. We do need a an answer to this question, so it still needs to be addressed. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions? I have one question, which is, could you give us a little update on transitional activities that are going to happen after you move on to your next
Well, I
adventure?
have meetings with everybody. We're having another meeting in the morning after we always have a meeting after the board meeting to kind of touch base on who needs to do what, but we'll have a probably longer meeting tomorrow to make sure that everything that I do is addressed by somebody. So I had a meeting with Deborah and Debbie earlier in the week and went through everything that I do and tried to pass it off to one or the other. And also David, so the three of them will try to pick up the stuff that needs to be picked up. My major concern, as you know, and I think as I've told the acting general manager, is the MOUs are coming up this year. They'll be expiring on June 30th of 2015. And so that's the most important thing, I believe, that's coming down the pipe, as well as the LAFCO review. But that's an important thing that
That's for both unions?
both unions' contracts are expiring on June 30th.
Okay. And I know that weren't there some new hires that were
We
kind of...
have new hire, knock on wood, we have 2 new deputy harbor masters that should be coming, one is starting on Monday, and the other one, I believe, is gonna start on the 23rd. So, and we have chosen a person that will be, actually, they will be assistant harbor master, and that will take effect on March 23rd as well, or March 22nd. Actually, Jim Merlo has been chosen as the assistant harbor master for Oyster Point Marina.
Okay. And I hear you're going to join us for the employee appreciation
Yes, I will
dinner?
be there, so I can have fun with all my coworkers for one last time.
Great.
Can I make a point of clarification?
Yes.
The general manager searches, there's a link right on the homepage.
Okay.
So on the homepage, there's a couple pictures. It says news and announcements, and the very first thing says general manager search, and you click the link to get into the survey
Okay.
and the information.
I must have blown right by it. Thank you for pointing that
Sure.
out. Anything else from anyone? No? Okay. Item 15, which is report from Charles White, acting harbor master at Oyster Point Marina.
You have a report, any questions on
Okay. Does anybody have questions? So you started construction of the laundry room?
Yeah, we had the door set in, and Jim Marlowe will be giving you updates in the upcoming meetings.
Okay.
So the work is underway.
All right.
Someone's checked out.
And so, what does this mean, start of construction on the dragon boat float?
We have a float that we, is for the kayak water trail, and we were gonna do something with that, but we decided to put the kayak racks on the land side to make it convenient for that trail. And the dragon boats, they're looking for better operation platform, and so that's become available. It's not much on the construction. It's already floating. It's just putting up a cradle with a couple of rollers so they have safely in and out. We'll keep you updated on that.
Okay. And then I see that you're doing slurry seal on the Bay Trail?
We're getting the proposals, and you'll have a staff report prior to any purchase of that.
Okay, great. That's all the questions I had. Does anybody have anything before we go on? Okay. Next, we have the report from acting general manager. Sorry. We already did that. That's what it says on here, though. 16.
No, from John Draper.
Oh, sorry, I've written the wrong
CC'd
line.
on that one.
Okay, report from acting harbor master John Draper at Pillar Point Harbor.
You have my report, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Could you tell us about the submarine?
The submarine, so Boeing and NOAA are doing research out at the Farallon Islands. On Monday, they staged all their equipment, did some testing. They'll probably start their actual research tomorrow, every day, in and out. They brought in Omar, which is about 65-foot support vessel. They have 2 Zodiacs also, and they have a unmanned submersible.
So if one wanted to go down and look at the submarine, how is it possible to see it, or?
Yeah, it's sitting right on top of the pier right now. They have to, they put it in the water every morning. They take it out every night to charge the batteries. What they'll do is they'll tow it outside the harbor, probably out around the PP buoy, a couple miles offshore, and they'll release it, and it goes on its own. It's all programmed to go where it goes. If it finds any obstructions, it automatically goes up and over them or around them, gets back on course, and it's going out to the Farallon Islands to study the bottom and some rockfish. We've been told. With NOAA, you never know.
Yeah.
Wow.
They keep it pretty hush-hush.
It's yellow.
It's yellow?
Bright yellow. It's a yellow submarine. You can't miss it.
People asked if the Beatles were in it.
Yeah. I could bring, in the next meeting, I can bring all the pictures about what they're doing and what it's like and all the equipment that it's supposed to be on.
Great, thank you for that.
One of their additional programs, they're going to look at an aircraft carrier that was sunk in about 1951 in bombing practice, the Independence, and I measured that out at about 31 miles from the harbor, 3,000 feet of water. They've got new transducers and multi-beam sonar that they're experimenting with.
Alrighty. Anything else? Anything else, John? Nope. Okay. So next we have, what do we have next?
Commission reports.
We have, yes, thank you. Committee reports, so this is item 17A, and I see that we have a committee report attached.
You want me to start with it?
Yes.
So the beach replenishment committee met for the first time on Tuesday, February 17th at the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club, and the co-chairs of that meeting were Commissioner Parvana and myself. And we had a great discussion, and we had this awesome map that Scott gave us that we could pin up on the wall and really discuss, a lively discussion on prioritization of potential beaches that need priority attention. And the committee came up with the West Trail Beach, the Princeton Shoreline. There are multiple opportunities to work with the Plan Princeton to coordinate that work. And then there's also Surface Beach. And the February 18th agenda packet included a support letter from the Harbor District to the Regional Sediment Management Plan Study Group requesting Surface Beach as a pilot project for beach replenishment. And after the letter was sent to NOAA, we received a very positive response. They were very optimistic that we can pursue a pilot project together. And additionally, after that, Supervisor Van Horsley's office expressed interest in participating in our next committee meeting on May 19th, because the county is also starting their structural shoreline protection at Surface Beach at the end of the summer, and so beach replenishment would help their efforts as well. And we're looking forward to this opportunity to partner with them.
Sounds like you've made a lot of progress in one meeting.
I am, it's happening quickly, but it's all good news.
That's great. In other committee reports, there is not a finance committee report because the finance committee hasn't met yet, although I think at this point, we really need to set a date for that meeting, and I'll bring that up in a minute. And the Communication and Marketing Committee doesn't have a report because unfortunately, when the committee met, there wasn't a quorum of 2 board members at the committee meeting due to an unexpected illness by one of the commissioners. So there's no report on that. Any other comments or reports that anybody wants to make on committees? Okay. Next, we have 17B, which is commissioner statements and requests. And we're going to start with B1. The Board of Harbor Commissioners may make public statements limited to 5 minutes. Would anyone like to make a public statement? Yes.
I would like to make one. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our Human Resources Manager for her work at the Harbor District. It's, you know, the role of a Human Resources Manager is extremely important in terms of ensuring the rights of the workers, ensuring the benefits to the workers, to the employees. And I think that your job has not been given its credit that is due. And I know that you have spent a lot of time in ensuring that all employees are notified of proper programs, proper benefits, and also representing their rights. And also, I know that you have stepped in many times in the role of acting general manager. And overall, you've been just a very general, offered a very general support for all of us. And it's been a real pleasure to know you and to work with you. And I wish you and your family much success and happiness in your new venture. And also, I'm going to miss all the jazz reports that you have provided. So thank you very much.
Okay. Any other commissioner statements? Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to echo that and say thank you so much, Ms. Harris, for your years of service on the Harbor District, and in the brief time that I've been on the board, just had a pleasure of working with you. And I mean, yes, you do work with the staff, but you also work with commissioners and the public, so you juggle all of those different audiences quite well. And I think people don't realize the role of an HR manager. I think everyone, you know, who doesn't understand it, they think that they could do better, or that they think they can do the job, and people don't realize the employee morale issues, the labor negotiation issues, the training issues, the legal compliances. I mean, there's just such a huge plate of items that you work on a regular basis, and I just want to say thank you for doing such a great job, and you will be missed tremendously. Thank you.
Okay, I have a quick statement. I guess it's more of a report. So this week I attended the Plan Princeton TAC meeting, which is the Technical Advisory Committee meeting, and we reviewed this draft report, which will be provided to the public at public meetings coming up soon. So the planners working on Plan Princeton have made a lot of progress. They're going to be going out and meeting with the public soon, and there'll be information about when those meetings are happening on the Plan Princeton website. And if you haven't been to the Plan Princeton website, all you need to do is just Google Plan Princeton and it will come up. I don't know the exact web address, but it will come up. It comes up quite quickly. And if you want another source for updates on their public meeting schedule, you can also go to the Mid-Coast Community Council's website. They will be including the schedule on their website as well. And I'm sure that there's going to be a great turnout, but it is really important that the community turn out for these meetings and get updated on what the planners have been doing. Looks like they've made a lot of progress. There's some really interesting work that's happening here, and public input is an incredibly important part of that process. And this plan is going to have a big impact on Pillar Point Harbor because of the proximity to Princeton and Pillar Point Harbor. There's just a real connection there, and hopefully there can be greater synergy between the two areas in the future. And I just encourage everybody to get involved with this planning effort. The county has really been doing a great job with all the consultants that they're working with. So look forward to that. And next we have B2, 17B2. Any commissioner wishing to place an item on a future agenda may make a motion to place such an item on a future agenda. Would anyone like to place an item on a future agenda? Yes.
Thank you. For the next meeting, I would like to see an item for a proclamation for Acting Harbor Master White.
I will second it.
Thank you.
Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Peravano?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. Any other requests?
I believe that somehow we're going to have to revisit the Lisa Wise Consulting agreement. There's some problems there. They want additional fees to correct that which they never produced correctly the first time. They're interpreting our stop action work one way. I had conversation with them saying, I believe that you should finish what you started and give it to us in a form that we approve, not what you think is right, and you charge us for making it in a form that we like. The community sustainability plan is looking for a little completion there. So we have the finance plan and the community sustainability section of that, and somehow we're going to have to deal with moving forward on that for the fishing public.
So would you like it to be
I think it's just a follow.
Discussion and
yeah.
possible action on Lisa Wise consulting contract and invoices, or does that?
Perfect. Yeah, that's fine. We just got to start discussing it, and we've got to make something happen.
Did you catch that, Debbie?
Yeah, on the next agenda or a future agenda?
We need something fairly soon. The fishermen are asking Robert and myself about the community sustainability plan, and they want that section finished, and we don't believe that's been adequately addressed, and they haven't addressed the finance section of the report adequately. So there's two parts.
Okay, so Lisa Wise Consulting, discussion and possible action of Lisa Wise Consulting contract and invoices. Before we, I guess I want some feedback from Scott Grindy, if it's okay to ask for that, to make sure that this is something that you'll be able to tackle by the next meeting, realistically.
I won't be at
You
the
won't
next
be
meeting.
here.
Won't be at the next meeting. But I can sure put it on the agenda if that's easy. Yeah, I just won't be able to do the report.
So could the report be provided by the strategic planning committee so that it can be agendized?
We can look at it. We're going to meet as the committee. The main thing is just calling Lisa Wise and saying, you haven't given us that which you're billing us for. We're not going to pay you until you produce it in a form that we're satisfied with. So we're between this rock and a hard spot right now.
Okay, but we can't really discuss that right now because it's not on this agenda.
Well, that's what we have to discuss, yeah.
Could you put that into a report to put in the board packet?
All right, fine.
All right.
I'll talk with you maybe tomorrow, if that works.
Point
Yes.
of clarification, sorry. I'm hearing this is an informational item, right?
I have
There'll be a
discussion.
report saying where we're at, and then we discuss it, or?
The motion I
that
have
not-
is discussion and possible action on the Lisa Wise Consulting contract and invoices.
Because to have that discussion, we'd have to have information, wouldn't we? I mean,
Well, that should be included in the report.
Why don't you just put it on the first meeting in April? Or,
Oh, this is March. Scott's looking kind of not too happy about that. Here's,
It doesn't give them a lot of
here-
time.
the thing is, right now, we are losing a very vital employee. And so if commissioners want to put things on the agenda, they're going to have to write their own reports more
Yeah.
than normal, because we just don't have the staff to do it. So I mean, I'm just, honestly, I don't know what else we can do at this point. If we want to keep adding to the pile of agenda items, we're gonna need to write the reports, otherwise we shouldn't be adding them to the agenda. You know, I'm just saying, there are limits
You're not
here.
here to argue.
Yeah, there's no argument.
Yeah.
So if, you know, I'm you know, as long as the committee or a commissioner wants to take ownership of this and put something together for the board packet, I think that works, but we gotta make sure we know who's doing that.
Well, we can have a report for the board packet and discussion and possible action or recommendations, options on how to proceed.
Yeah, and we'll both work on that.
Yes.
I think.
At the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
So, did someone second that?
No.
I'll second.
Quick point of clarification question for staff. With regards to your posting deadlines, when would you actually need that report to get it posted on the website and also to get the commissioners' packets out? When would you need that? What is that drop dead deadline? Just so that we can look backward.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Wednesday, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because it
Okay.
has to be reviewed.
No later than that, really. So
I don't have my, I gave you a outline of agenda happenings, of
Okay.
deadlines and things like that, and so that would fall, your report would fall into that same as staff reports. I'm sorry, I thought I put it in my binder after it was.
So we have 1 minute left. I had one request.
I'm not sure you voted yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You should.
So can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Peeryball?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. And really quick, I would like to add an item regarding discussion and possible action related to committees. I'm interested in finding a solution, and I think Stephen Miller was going to look at this, to the issue of if only one commissioner can make it to a committee meeting, can a member, because we in our bylaws it says that we can appoint members of the public to the committee. If we have a member of the public and a commissioner at a meeting, can we move forward with the meeting, or do we have to cancel the meeting if the second commissioner can't make it and the meeting's already in happening?
You want to agendize this for discussion?
I want to agendize it for discussion, but am I explaining it in a way that makes sense to you?
Your bylaws allow you to name public
Thank you.
members to committees upon board approval. So you would need your colleagues to approve your nomination of a member of the public to that committee. That's
And then
what
that would allow a meeting to take place if one board member couldn't attend.
if there was a quorum of the committee, if this person, member of the public, would become a member of the committee.
Okay, so then I'd like to request that we have an agenda item to appoint a member to the the communications marketing committee. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, what was that, President Brennan?
I'm making a motion for an future agenda item to suggest a member of the public, Jimmy Anderson, to be a member of the Marketing Communications Committee.
Well, now we just altered it.
Just
Yeah.
from what I know about committees, normally, my suggestion is you set up a process for how a person can apply to be on the committee, and then you take applications, and then you do interviews, and then you take somebody. That's the way it's done on the board that I'm on for South San Francisco.
Well, our bylaws state that each commissioner can select up to 2 committee members, but the board has to vote to approve them. So that's our bylaws.
That's fine, just letting you know what the suggestion is.
Okay. No, I appreciate
Be
that.
a little more transparent.
I appreciate that, and it may be that we need to revise the bylaws at some point, but I'm trying to work with what we've got right this minute. So can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Is this for the process, or are you trying to put him on now?
Just to put it on the agenda, that's all.
As a discussion, right? We're not
Just as a
approving
discussion.
a particular
Well,
person,
No.
that, you said
Okay.
appoint a member of the public.
Because I heard a name.
Yeah.
I know, it's just for a discussion to then decide if the board
Okay.
approves.
Aye.
Commissioner David? Aye. Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carabana?
Aye.
President Brennan?
Aye. Okay. With that, it
Make-
doesn't appear anyone has any additional items, am I wrong?
Can make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second, third, fourth.
The meeting is adjourned by unanimous consent.
Now the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for the